And then they're both going to do the community pledge together. And then you guys have this here.
I'll read here. So I'll read this part, and then I'll do
how many bullet points you want me to do?
You can do 4.
Yeah, we got it.
Here, I'll read this part. You do these 4, and then I'll read this part.
So.
Good evening. Welcome to the Beverly Hills Board of Education regularly scheduled meeting for this Tuesday, April 25th, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Vice President Dr. Stern, can you please introduce our opening ceremony officiants here?
I'd be happy to. I don't think I'm connected here, am I? Can you hear me?
Is the mic on?
It's on. Oh, now it's on. Sorry. We're very happy to have two students from Beverly Vista Middle School. And first we will have David give us the flag salute. Please rise.
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Go you.
Thank you, David. BHUSD.
Oh, one second. And I'd also like to introduce Israel. And David and Israel will take us through the mission, the community pledge, and the vision.
All right. BHUSD mission statement, vision statement, and values. Mission, educational excellence. Vision, our students will realize their full potential to thrive with integrity in a complex, changing world. Beverly Hills Unified School District Community Pledge. The BHUSD community acknowledges that in order to achieve educational excellence, we must act with integrity and respect for each other and our learning environment.
Therefore, I pledge to model civil behavior and respect in all communications and in publics while maintaining a culture of honesty. Listen and acknowledge differences of opinion. Do my part to protect an inclusive culture in which we honor the relationship between all school community members and honor our learning environment, including how we take care of our schools and personal property.
By holding ourselves and each other accountable to this pledge at all times, we will promote an environment of educational excellence that will allow our entire BHUSD community to thrive.
That's it.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Moving along, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Dr. Breggy, report of closed session action.
Thank you, President Margot. There was no action in closed session this evening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Breggy. And now for the teacher-student spotlight, I'd like to turn it over to Sarah Caber.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Breggy, everyone else is here. Good morning, or good evening. I'm so excited to be here with my fifth grade team to talk about the Butterfly Project. Last year was our first year where we started a Butterfly Project in memory of International Holocaust Day, where each of our students made a butterfly to represent a child whose life was lost in the Holocaust. And our fifth graders did a lot of learning, both about the Holocaust and the genocide that happened with World War II, but also connecting it to other genocides, like the Armenian genocide that we just observed this week. So I want to first introduce my team, the incredible teachers. Liat Keynes is our special education teacher, and she's the person who brought us this project. So we want to thank you and thank her. She's taking the lead. Also, our fifth grade team is Bella Kaufman, Tanya Guerra, Nikki Snydowin, and Lindsay Holberg, who is not here at the moment. And then I want to invite Ms. Keynes up, as well as four of our students, Kayla Samuha, and Shane Varuzan, and Jonathan Marzouk, and Ariel Khan. So I'm going to start to share our screen. So, can someone put on screen sharing for me?
Try again.
There we go. And we'll start a slideshow. And I'm going to hand it over.
The Butterfly Project, named after the poem written by Pavel Friedman in the concentration camp, is a call to action through education, the arts, and memorial making. In many cultures, the butterfly is a symbol of rebirth and hope. As educators, it is our responsibility to learn from the horrific events of the Holocaust and teach our children the dangers of hatred, bigotry, and discrimination. The program teaches students empathy and action as the key components of hope. The fifth graders participated in a 3-part learning. They watched the award-winning documentary, The Butterfly Project, listened to the story of children whose parents survived the Holocaust, and then created their own butterflies. These butterflies will join the 89 butterflies we created last year in our 5th grade class and join our butterfly garden to reach the goal of 1.5 million butterflies in memory of the children who died in the Holocaust. I am honored to be part of the Hawthorne and Beverly Hills community for creating such an inspirational and beautiful piece of art that will continue to be our legacy. I want to thank Sarah, Christine, and Kevin for supporting this project, Elizabeth Fetterman, the art teacher who helped the students create these beautiful butterflies, and a huge thank to the 5th grade teachers, Bella, Lindsay, Tanya, Nicole, and Tanya, did I say that again? For taking time to be part of this project and continuing the conversations in class. And I'm going to pass it on to the students to share.
Hi, my name is Shane. I'm a 5th grade student at Hawthorne Elementary School, and I'm in Mascara's class. This poem, The Butterfly by Pavel Friedman, is a very important poem. The very last, so richly, brightly, dazzling yellow. Perhaps if the sun's tears would sing against a white stone, such a yellow is carried lightly way up high. It went away because I'm sure it wished to kiss the world goodbye. For 7 weeks I've lived here, penned up inside this ghetto, but I found my people here. The dandelions called to me, and the white chestnut candles in the court. Only I never saw another butterfly. That butterfly was the last one. Butterflies don't live here, in the ghetto. This poem was written during the Holocaust. The Butterfly Project's goal is to make 1.5 million butterflies to represent the 1.5 million children of the Holocaust that were trapped in these tiny villages, ghettos, and concentration camps. This project is important for many reasons. It teaches people what happened in the past so we can make sure it doesn't happen again. It was a terrible thing that nobody should have to go through. It wasn't just the Jewish citizens, it was anyone who was even the slightest bit different. To make our butterfly garden beautiful, the garden club has planted milkweed plants for the monarch butterflies. Monarch butterflies are becoming extinct as their food source is dying due to pollution. Butterflies come in all different shapes and sizes. They are unique and beautiful, just like people. And this is my butterfly that I created. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kayla and I'm in 5th grade in Miss Snyderman's class. Today, I will explain the Butterfly Project and share my thoughts. In this project, my classmates and I received a bio card with a child on it who died in the Holocaust. This is the card. My butterfly will represent Sarah Lev. Each child in the Holocaust meant something, and it's important to remember them. After we received our bio card in art class, we used clay to make a butterfly. There were lots of stencils to use to add their initials or how old they were when they died. We could add textures with the stencils too. The next week it was dry and ready to be painted. The reason we made these butterflies is to show how much we care about the children who died in the Holocaust. I want to thank Ms. Fetterman for helping us with this project. She helped us create a meaningful project that allowed us to share our creativity and make something beautiful out of a terrible event. And then this was a butterfly that we made.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jonathan Marzuk, and I'm Miss Holberg and Miss Kane's class. I'm honored to be speaking here today and explaining my thoughts about the Butterfly Project. I think it is important to talk about the Butterfly Project. It is important to talk about the Holocaust because the lessons need to be passed down from generation to generation. We learn to be an upstander, a person who stands up for someone else. We learn that we need to treat everyone how we want to be treated. We cannot target people who have different religions, looks, beliefs, or abilities. As I go into middle school, I will use these lessons to help students by helping people who have bad days. Standing up for someone can make a huge impact on their lives. This is my butterfly.
Hi, my name is Ariel and I am in Miss Kaufman's class. I'm honored to speak about the Butterfly Project. I believe it should be shared around the world because everyone should hear and learn about the horrors of the Holocaust. My 5th grade class at Hawthorne had the opportunity to speak with the children of the Holocaust survivors. From that experience, I learned a lot, and I want to share what I learned with you. The Jews were identified by numbers and not by names. I also learned that they wore dirty uniforms and only had them cleaned once. I learned about the concentration camps. These camps were where the Jews, people with disabilities, and people who looked different worked and were terrorized. It was so interesting listening to the children of survivors who spoke with us about the Butterfly Project. The idea to make a butterfly for each child who lost their life is amazing. We need to show respect and honor for every child that was killed. I am proud to be a part of this project and make one more butterfly for the 1.5 million children who died in the Holocaust. And then this is my butterfly.
Thank you so much to everyone who's here. Thank you so much. We have a whole garden. If you come to Hawthorne, you can see it. We've added to it. And then we're this year's stuff is not up yet, right?
No.
This year's stuff is going up in just a few weeks, and then all of them are done. So it takes us a long time from beginning to learn about it in January all the way through till April. So that's why we came to present as we're done and finished and ready to go back up on that wall. I didn't shout her out to start with, but Ms. Fetterman took on a huge role, and she wanted to be here tonight, but she's just under the weather, so she couldn't be here. And she really stops any other art that she's doing to make sure that she has time for this piece and to work on it in conjunction. So we're really thankful to everyone.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if I was going. I'm done. I'm leaving.
All right, Ms. Caber, were you finished?
I'm done. Yes. I just didn't know if it was my job to call up the next person.
No, thank you. I got it from here. Colleagues, if you have any comments, Alex, I can start with you.
I just wanted to say thank you, Ms. Keynes, for starting this project and teaching the Holocaust and remembering the lives of the children that were lost in such a meaningful way. And thank you to the students for coming and sharing it with us.
Judy?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It's such an important project that you accomplished together with your teachers. A big thank you to the teachers for making this happen. I can't imagine what it would be to be a teacher teaching an 11-year-old such a thing. And I had heard when it was happening that there were a lot of tears, and you guys took a lot of that on. So that's a big responsibility, but it's such an important thing to learn about for our kids to have this perspective. So I really appreciate you.
I want to thank you.
Mrs. Marcus?
Thank you. I want to thank you for being here tonight and presenting this wonderful, wonderful project. And it's very timely because the past week, as many of you know, it was Yom HaShoah, which the commemoration of the Holocaust that happened 70 years ago or whatever. I haven't figured it out just yet, but I can quickly do it. And I really want to talk about how important this is to carry on as you get older, and how you appreciate what you just learned, taking it forward next year and the year after, and learning about the situation. My question, I was wondering, do you present to let the younger classes walk through and see thing, or do you ever, for the younger kids to see what these kids have done? Is there any to carry out a lesson, or is any thought of that?
As of now, it's a garden, and it's an herb garden, and it's sort of centered in an area of campus where people walk by all the time. And we're working on a sign and a larger sign, and also an explanation of what it is, similar to what Ms. Kane started with this evening, so that it's there and listed. But mostly students under 5th grade, we're not really talking about the Holocaust with. It's a big conversation and sort of a rite of passage as they hit 5th grade of maturity, that we're starting to have this conversation, and we're hoping to continue to develop this year after year, that this is a tradition.
Carrying it forward then, going into the older grades and so on. So I really appreciate this program, so that it's there for us to have in the schools, because it's so important.
Thank you.
And I thank you for the leadership in doing this, and congratulations. Good job, guys. And thank you for coming and sharing.
Thanks, guys.
Ms. Marcus, please speak into the microphone next time.
Sorry.
Dr. Stern?
I'll just reiterate that it's a beautiful project, and I'm really happy to see this the sort of ceremonial thing that you guys will be doing yearly, and it's very important. And also, we recognize all the people across different genocides, and the fact that a lot of people, just by virtue of having a disability or were different, were also killed. And it's just a beautiful project, and thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. I thank you, Mrs. Caber, for coming again, and thank you, students. This is my favorite kind of learning, when it's cross-curricular. You're doing history, you're doing English, you're doing art. One could say you're doing current events as well. It's extremely effective. So I appreciate the efforts. And I know it started back in January, but it kind of bridges both the International Holocaust Remembrance from January and what Mrs. Marcus was referring to that just took place. And it's a wonderful way to celebrate those in a school. Instead of just saying, we are recognizing this, you're actually doing something about it in the classroom, and it has an educational value. So thank you very much for sharing that with everybody tonight. Dr. Breggy, did you have anything before?
Yeah, just really quickly, it is a beautiful site. It is the type of project that really takes on a different meaning when you're actually there and you can actually walk by. I often wonder where you're going to go when you get more and more butterflies up, but it's a beautiful project. And if you remember, we kind of started. That's true. We're going to have to talk about that. But the tail end, we kind of came in at the tail end of the project, without knowing kind of what happened in the beginning first. But this year we were able to see that kind of start from the beginning and now see this at the end. And I just want to thank you all for what you're doing in your classroom, the experiences that the kids have, and just the true meaning that they're able to take away. Thank you for working that into your curriculum.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I just want to, Mrs. Marcus, can you please make sure you talk into the microphone, because we can't hear you unless you do. So thank you. I think I'm going to call up Tim?
Or Dr. Scott, sorry.
Or Dr. Scott, sorry. For our next spotlight.
Hello. Hi. And Tim is actually driving some of the high school volleyball players to their playoff games, so that's why he's not here tonight. Otherwise, he's super bummed that he can't recognize you guys. I know he's very proud of you. So we are acknowledging our boys basketball team that made it to playoffs, to the finals, which is the farthest ever in BVMS history. So we're so excited. I'm going to have our athletic director, Coach Radanski, come up, and then our basketball coaches, Coach Verdi, and then Coach Logan come up. And Coach Logan is actually a BV graduate who is now coming back to coach our students. So if you guys could come up and recognize, and then do you guys want the kids up right now? Come on up, guys.
Awesome. They're all there.
The game they played was so ridiculously good. They were down in the beginning from a team that played together. Give me some of that. Thanks. They played together, and the other team played together as a AAU team, and we came in as not an AAU team from separate teams, and we were down in the beginning, and then we came back and totally we beat them in the second 3 quarters. The third 3 quarters. It was pretty crazy because we came back, and the crowd that we had the bus come over, the party bus. They came over with all the kids that came over and presented, and it was fabulous. It was such a great scene, and it was great for these kids to see and experience. And they finally got to play together, and it was so much fun. And I think the kids really grew from it. They really did. And I think we grew as a school from it. It represented everything that we'd done at BV, like showing resilience from the game and making connections with everybody else that we did out there. It was a good time. It was definitely an experience that they're not going to forget. So hopefully further on from the year, they go into the varsity and they go into JV and do the same thing. So it was a good job. Thanks. And now, Verdi, you got something to say? Here's Coach Verdi.
Hi, everyone. I didn't prepare anything, but I just want to say that it was an awesome season. I coach here at the high school. I coach the JV team here. I've been with Jarvis Turner for about 13 years, assistant on varsity. And so I wasn't really planning on coaching the 7th, 8th grade group. It was an amazing experience. It's good to see the future is in good hands. These guys are great players. They are great kids. And also, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Scon, Coach Radonsky, Tim Ellis, for putting together the program for the youth sports at the middle school. I think it's super important that we build through at the middle school level up to the high school level, and keep the kids in our district, because there's private schools and all that other stuff, a lot of competition. So we'd like to keep our kids in the district and have them go to the high school, and this is a great step towards that. Thanks to Coach Logan for helping out. I actually coached Coach Logan at Beverly Hills High School, so it was awesome to be able to work with him as an assistant coach. He's got a bright future if he chooses to do this. Not a lot of money in it, but it's fun. It's fun and rewarding. So, if you need advice, I got you. All right. But again, thank you, board, for having us. I did not expect to come up here and do this. So it's a great honor to be here. And thank you guys very much.
Hello. Actually, I graduated last year, so it was kind of it felt good to come back and to know all these kids, to meet and get to know everyone. So it was an honor to come. So I would just like to thank you guys for letting me and giving me the opportunity. It was great to meet every one of you. And Verdi, I've known you for a long time now, so it was natural to bond with you even more. So thank you. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you all. Congratulations, guys. I'll let my colleagues, if they have any comments. Alex?
Just congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
I really want to acknowledge you, Dr. Scon and Mr. Ellis and the entire team. I remember a couple years ago we were coming back from COVID for in-person, and we would have those PTA conversations about how to keep the kids on campus and keep them busy and working out and athletic, and you never said no. Anything that we as parents asked of you, you added on to it. Mr. Ellis added on to it. And this is what we have in addition to all the other soccer and literally dozen sports teams going on every afternoon on our campuses. So thank you so much for making this happen for our kids and our families. I appreciate it.
I just want to congratulate all of you. I just such a huge team. I even get some time to play with everybody there. It's amazing. And I look forward to seeing you guys play at the high school next year. I don't know, some of you are 7th graders, I guess, so you'll be back in at middle school. But some of you are ready to join the JAV and they keep going. And I love that idea. So Keep it up. It keeps you on campus and it keeps you on the straight and narrow. So, congratulations.
Thank you. I think I saw Mrs. Wells just popped in. Do you have anything?
Hi, I'm so sorry that I'm late. I was at a funeral this evening or this afternoon, but I just want to say congratulations to you all. I'm sorry I missed the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Stern.
Yes, congratulations. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for the certificate. We're going to read that outside.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Let's go.
Dr. Stern, did you have any comments? Okay, your mic's on.
Ooh.
Arda, wait. Arda.
Thank you, team. Congratulations. Wonderful work representing. You guys are definitely the epitome of building a bench.
Yeah.
So, well done. I guess there's a photo opportunity here. Is that what we're doing?
Yep.
We hear you.
Guys, will you join us for a picture?
Of course.
Where do you want?
Where do you want them? In front?
Yeah, this would be great.
You guys got to stand on the table.
God. Oh, God. Here we go, Rafi.
Are you related to Ryan Carey?
No.
Okay, he was on the team a few years ago.
No,
So.
Josh is my son. He's a redhead. He's on.
Oh,
he's
Josh.
in 8th grade. Yeah.
Ask him about Verdi. He knows
Okay,
me.
I will.
A lot less red hair than it used to be. Get up there. Get in there. Good. Just good as mine.
Dr. Stern, I need you in. Mrs. Marcus, I need you in. Dr. Stein, you might want to come in too.
More? Or we can
You guys are really stretching this up for me. Act like you like each other. There we go. 3, 2.
Okay, now me, the nurse. Over there. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to win next year.
Done.
Okay, and break. Okay, moving on. While they're filing out, this is a perfect segue into the newest edition of Now No One Knows. Ricky, if you're ready, whenever you want. I did meet with Horseman teacher Ellen Kwan.
Oh, teacher, I need you.
Hi, welcome to Now No One Knows. I am here with Horseman ILC teacher, former 4th grade compadre, Ellen Kwan. How long have you been teaching in Beverly Hills?
Let's see, I started in 2005, so I think I'm finishing my 18th year.
Tell us something about yourself that nobody really knows.
Well, I used to play roller derby, and my roller derby name is Guantanamo Bay.
That is truly something I did not know. So, what are you going to enlighten me with today?
I thought we could talk about how to make math a little bit more fun. There are a bunch of strategies we're going to talk about. For addition, we're going to talk about the breaking apart. Have you heard about breaking apart, Noah? Okay, so here, 722 plus 158. How can we take a little bit from this number and add it here to make it a little bit easier? A group of 10.
Well, I would take 8 away from here.
Fantastic.
Because I'm seeing the 2 here, and I know that 8 and 2 are 10.
Okay, so we're essentially going to add 8 there, and that becomes
730.
All right.
And this becomes 150.
fantastic. So now, can you add these two numbers in your head?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah.
It's 880.
That one is correct. Yes, 880. Woo! So you had just mentioned earlier about doing something here and then giving it back. That's his compensation method. Compensation, I like to say, is give a little, take a little, but in the end, you have to do the same thing. I want to get to the next 10. How many could you add there, Noah?
I can add 2.
All right, could you add 2 there? And then below it, could you write the new sum? All right, and I kind of did the math for you, but would you agree that adding 160 to this number is a lot easier than adding 158? But we had added 2 extra, so in the end, we need to do what then?
Subtract the 2.
Exactly.
Which gives us...
These are 2 strategies to approach addition. Would you like to move on?
Oh wait, there's more.
There's more! Dun, dun, dun! Okay. Did you know that you can use addition to actually subtract? Over here, this strategy, I love it because counting up is easier for me. So counting on method is you actually take the subtractant, 185, and you start there and you count up until you reach your minuend. So if you can, I kind of started off for you, but would you kindly add the numbers that help me get to the next group of 10?
I think I know where this is going.
Fantastic. And then the last step is in your head, add those 3 numbers together. Boom. So this is the counting on method. My students love this one. I do too. Similar to addition, compensation again, it's a give a little, take a little. So in this way, so 162 minus 48. Can we make 48 a more friendly number by adding something to it?
I'm going to try 12.
Oh, wow.
Just
do it.
because I can. I'm going to add 12, and that's going to give me 60. And then this, I know 162 minus 60, right off the bat, is 102. And so now we have 102, we add back the 12, and we get 114.
Now with zeros, I don't know about you, but I hate regrouping. Do you remember doing that?
Yes.
Go next door, carry, borrow, carry.
Yep.
But by adding one little step, you can make subtracting with zeros so much easier. So what is the largest digit in our number system? 0.
I mean 9?
Yes. Okay. So if we have 9, do you ever have to regroup?
No, because the point is to get to that.
Instead of having to do it individually, we can start by taking away right away. So if I take 1 away from 800, it becomes
799.
Boom, and then you can subtract. There's no regrouping.
Can I do that?
Please do. Okay. You took 1 away though. This one you added back. So that was just 2 steps. Boom. So
never did this before.
Last one. Here we go. Multiplication. So very similar. Okay, we can break apart. Would you break this number apart into place values? 200 plus 40 plus 6. Okay, so without even writing, can you just, in your head, tell me what 4 times 2 plus 2 zeros?
That's 800.
Okay, 800. Let's leave that to the side. Okay, or you can write it down. You can write it down if you want.
Just for them at home.
Okay.
That's why I'm right. They can't see what's going on in here.
In your lovely brain.
Nobody can.
All right, next.
4 times
4
40.
times 40.
That's going to be 160. And 4 times 6 is 20.
All right.
And then this equals...
Fantastic. And then there's also the compensation, so the taking away, giving. So this one we had taken away, but we can also add.
Okay, so we're going to add 3.
Yes, please. So now that makes it a lot easier. 6 times 5 plus 2 zeros.
Right, that's 3,000.
Okay, fantastic. Let's write 3,000 down there. You had added how many groups of 6?
3 groups.
Yeah, we added 3 groups of 6. And
So
what
then I
is
have
3
to
groups?
add.
No, we have to...
Subtract, I was thinking of this.
Yes. So we need to subtract 3 groups of 6. So
Okay, so then it'd be 2, 9, 8, 2.
yes. These are some of the strategies that I teach my 4th graders when we're dealing with addition, subtraction, multiplication.
And they do all of this in their head, though.
Yes.
Do they practice on paper?
So we
first,
practice
they
on
can-
paper just so, I kind of, model what's happening in my head. And eventually we'll play a game, I'll do a thing, and they'll do it in their head, and then boom, they write their answer on their whiteboard and show it. And it's amazing how quickly they can come up with these answers if they use some of these strategies.
This is phenomenal. Ellen, thank you so much for showing me all of this. And now, Noah knows.
Oh, teacher, I need you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That was a blast. So much to learn. You all picked up something. We're going to move to consent. Now, I had one item on the question. I just want to make sure there was else. Okay, can I get a motion to approve consent calendar minus H?
Yep.
Did you also want to pull one? I think, did you pull the one that?
I'd like
Did
to
you pull the
pull
one?
H,
8H and
N, and J.
N and J.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'm sorry, 8H, N, and J?
H, Nancy, and Jumping Jack.
Okay, thank you.
And N, yeah.
And N?
Yeah.
H, N, and J.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
I
Can
will
somebody
make
make a motion?
Go ahead, Rochelle.
I will make a motion to approve the Ascent calendar without H, N, and J.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcus and Dr. Stern.
Do M and L to talk about.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. We will move to item. Can somebody make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve item H, annual contract with the Maple Center Counseling Center for the 2023-24 school year.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, thank you, Mrs. Marcus. Well,
Can you hear him?
Say that again, Noah.
who seconded them?
Mary.
I did. Mary.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Who pulled it?
Yeah, it seems a little backwards because we just approved it, but maybe I'm not clear. I just wanted a little more clarification on the terms. I mean, to offer, I know the Maple Counseling Center does a tremendous job. And in this day and age, we need it more than ever, and I'm grateful to them. But I just wanted a little more clarification. For example, given more crisis counseling, like heaven forbid, but those days in which, the day after we need some professionals on campus, I want to know how that's handled. Number two, I would like a little more clarification about the differentiation between the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school, because those are very separate counseling situations. So I don't know if further documentation or a scope could be provided to us, but as it is, I just needed more clarification. I don't know about my colleagues.
I also pulled this, and I really just thought it would be important for the public to hear about our partnership with Maple Counseling and how much support that they do provide for us, and how we have how we contract with them, just so that they have a better understanding of what this partnership looks like, and to Amanda's point, what the support is at the different schools,
yeah.
Especially since mental health is so important to us.
I would just like to make a comment about something that a member of the community asked me about the Maple Counseling, and that was what's happening with the community circle, and the fact that that is sometimes now more optional than something that's all the time. And I'd like to know what happened at that program, if we could find out about, not necessarily tonight, but if we could look into what's happening with the community circle.
I think I'm going to be handed the baton to answer those questions. Hi, everyone. Good evening, Board of Education. Community Circle, first and foremost. It started to, the Maple Counseling Center started to revamp the curriculum. And so that those that had already had the community circle in place into the classroom, kind of pre-pandemic, kind of maintained those partnerships with those volunteers that were already in those classrooms. But as they're training new people to lead the community circle with the new curriculum, that's kind of the lag for us to get them back into our elementary. And that would be the elementary component. The only elementary component that they would kind of provide from the Maple Center is the community circle. So this is really a 6-12 contract. Initially, we started our partnership with the Maple Center, not just with the community circle, but also the support when we started to create the Norman Aid Center. All Maple Center counselors are directly supervised by a BHUSD employee. So that's Allie Norman Franks or Kristen Hartley, who is oversees the Bulldog Aid now at BVMS. The reason there was an increase to this contract a year ago, again, we did know coming out of the pandemic that mental health for our students was definitely on the rise, but we also knew with the board support that we started to create and roll out a Bulldog Aid Center that would mimic or look identical to the Norman Aid Center at the high school. So that was where we initially, for the first probably since 2017, our contract had always been $75,000. It had increased to $100,000 because of the increase in hours that we're providing for the middle school. Absolutely, they are there for us to leverage for if they were, gosh forbid, any sort of crisis. That is part of that. Is that they're immediately they'd be our second phone call after working with the police and our own. Employees, we would definitely be reaching out to them too, to be able to give us all personnel on deck kind of thing. In that contract, it really is having multiple opportunities or multiple, not only counseling interns, marriage and family therapists at both of the sites to be able to support our students. And again, up till 5, so because 6th through 12th grade, they can seem to up to about 5 sessions. And then a lot of times they're able to make community-based recommendations to the Maple Center for family counseling, or even support the parents in some of these situations, is being able to help not only support the student, but the family as well. So that's really where this contract is and where they lie. But again, they're directly supervised by a BHUSD employee. So that BHUSD employee does check in with those counselors almost on each hour, some points. So if that makes...
Thank you.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, not through Maple Counseling, we also have a full-time MFT for the middle school. And then can you talk about also what we have at the high school?
Yes. So through student services in partnership with the site administration and with the Board of Education, they were able to staff a full-time marriage and family therapist at the middle school and at the high school. And then I believe there's one that is split 50-50 between Hawthorne and Horace Mann. So the level of mental health support from a personnel standpoint that the board has provided us, you have to think we have, we're one of the few, if it would be hard pressed to find in the state of California that we have a full-time elementary school counselor each location that's a BHUSD employee. We have 4 full-time school counselors at the middle school, and we have 7 full-time counselors at the high school. I sit on the board of directors for the California Association of School Counselors, and the average is about 1 to 450 students per school counselor. We're down to 1 to about 200 to 225 students per school counselor when you do the actual division across the district. In plus the marriage and family therapists, and then in addition to this wonderful partnership that we have with the Maple Center that brings in additional resources that are community-based. So when our doors are closed, sometimes those students can still work with those community-based, the Maple Counseling Center as well. And Dr. Breggy actually sits on the board for the Maple Counseling Center as well. It gives them our voice from our school district.
Thank you very much for that. Do you have more questions, Mandy?
I'd still like to see a list of the assets that would be used in a crisis situation per school, if we could. Just, a table that just shows, given a crisis situation, approximately 2 MFTs would go to the elementary school. I think that'd be very helpful. As the contract reads now, and I thank you for the clarification, and I know that the Maple Center has done and continues to do a great job, but I just think that I would like to see a little more of it structured and laid out on a linear level, if I could. That's my recommendation.
And then perhaps include in that the support for special ed.
Yes. Also, our our associates on in DC there would like us to remind you to speak into the microphone because it's very hard for them to hear. Also, we forgot to say why they are in DC. They are at the Coast to Coast Federal Advocacy Conference, and so they are learning a great deal, and we're happy to connect with them over Zoom. Should we call for the question then?
You guys hear me okay?
We're not hearing you too well.
It looks like your mic is off.
Yeah, you're muted, Noah.
I think they have one microphone in the room for them.
It's Dr. Bargese, I think.
All right.
Okay.
We can hear you now.
That's a little better.
Okay, thank you. We'll go with all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Motion carries.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the Gander Publishing Services for Harkham Hillel Hebrew Academy for 2022-2023 school year. We need a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
I pulled this, and actually I apologize because I really wanted to pull as a series, really just to talk about LMNO, and really just, and this again is really just for the public. If they see this on our agenda, we have Harkham Hillel Hebrew Academy on our consent calendar, and I just thought it would be helpful for people to understand why we are providing these services to Harkham Hillel, because I think a lot of people have questions about that. So if maybe we could just have a little overview about why we have these expenses and what that's about for the public, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening again. So for the following, and I want to make sure I kind of repeat it too, it's items M, N, O,
LMNO.
LMNO, yes, LMNO. For our categorical funded programs, which are federal dollars, there is a caveat that the federal dollars follows the student in the residency and not the organization. And so when we look at Title I, which is considered, maybe it's considered low socioeconomic, and or Title III, which is English learner, those dollars follow the student that would identify in one of those two categories, and that isn't necessarily our BHUSD or Harkham. So if a student resides in Beverly Hills, qualifies for Title I or low socioeconomic, that money is paid into our school district because we are the mothership or the hub for the community. And then from there, we would then pay out to those organizations. So like on our next agenda, I've been working with Good Shepherd. So there'll also be a couple items for Good Shepherd on the next May board agenda, where I meet with them 3 to 4 times a year on what are they doing to identify any educational deficits within those students that are Beverly Hills residents that attend those two schools within the dollar amounts that are allocated per those children. And so that's why we then approve it. We kind of govern the money and the education that those students would receive. And then the auditors actually come to us and ask us, how are they doing? Was the money well spent? So there's a very extensive auditing processes too with those categorical funds.
I was the one that made a point about the fact that in the questions to you that we make sure that the students that we are dealing with are the students that belong in Beverly Hills that would necessarily be qualified for school here, and not just all the students that go to the academy. And it's only for the Beverly Hills resident students that are at Hillel Academy. And I did bring up the question about Good Shepherd, and I see you've already mentioned that for the next meeting.
And the only other organization within Beverly Hills was Page Academy for our, but they went to just TK at this point, or preschool. And so we, about 4 or 5 years ago, stopped having to do the consultation work with them. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Dustin.
Holly, any other? Okay. I've been informed we have to do a roll call vote. Pam, let's cross out.
You have to do a roll call vote, Pam.
Okay. What item are we on?
N.
N.
What happened to J?
Pass. J was.
It hasn't been.
It wasn't pulled.
No, we pulled it.
We pulled, I don't think.
We pulled J.
Sorry, we'll go back to J.
There hasn't been a motion on it yet.
And we're going to do a roll call. Okay. I don't have my sheet, but let's start with Alex Bodden. How do you vote on N?
Approve.
Very well.
I approve, yes.
Yes is good. Judith Manicherry.
Yes.
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 I say your name, Rochelle Marcus. Dr. Amanda Stern.
Yes.
Noah Margot.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion for the approval.
Okay, colleagues. We also have item J, which we had pulled.
I'll make a motion for approval of Partners in Practice's proposal for elementary math PD for 2023-2024 school year.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
I pulled this. I did.
Right.
And
Thank you.
again, Dustin,
Go
I
ahead.
just would like you, because on our strategic plan, we've made math such a focus for this year and going forward. And I really thought this was a great opportunity for you to speak about our professional development in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you to the Board of Education. This year, part of the strategic plan obviously was our primary focus was our math instruction. I think the principals and the crowd as well. Even tomorrow, just to highlight opportunity that we have our elementary math leadership team meeting tomorrow at the district office all day to be working on just a common assessment, scope and sequence, instructional practices. So I appreciate all that leadership too from our site administration. But we got to vet a ton of different partners. A lot of our staff attended different math conferences all the way up to Stanford University to be able to find the best partner to continue this professional development with us. And we found that within UCLA and the Partners of Practice. This past year, the board allowed us to bring them in, meet with our math leadership teams, and really start to dive further into that professional development on the best math instruction. And they have been a wonderful partnership, and that's why we are coming to the board tonight to ask to continue that partnership, not just then with our leadership team, but actually and we're starting to open this up to more teachers across the district and make sure that it really bleeds across all of our classrooms and all of our teachers have access to this information and this professional development opportunity. There is 2 consultants there. I just want to kind of address that. And that's just because of the days that our professional development days fall next year. So we couldn't stay with 1 consultant. We have 2 that will come on different days. Equally just as great, and we worked with both of them this year in different capacities.
Thank you. I really appreciate the work you're doing on working on the math, the professional development and how we're delivering that. I just remind people, we've had some presentations at the board meeting as well about your professional development around this. And it's really nice to see this going to the next level. So thank you very much.
A quick question. I think I read somewhere about as part of the strategic plan and addressing how the kids are progressing. We talked about the exams or what we are using to it. And can you address a little bit about why we're changing? I saw something about we are changing the format or changing what we're using to be better aligned with the curriculum.
I want to give out 2 shout outs too, because I missed this earlier, just really fast, is Dr. Michael Sherman, who's our district instructional coach, and Maggie Mayberry, who's our elementary coordinator too, because they have worked many hours on getting everything prepared for a lot of this math professional development, all the way from TK to 12th grade, again with our site administration, from APs to principals. One of the conversations that we did unpack through the strategic plan was, for many years in our district, we used a program called Renaissance Star 360, which we utilized as a diagnostic tool, which means we found where the students were at the start of the school year, and then we used it continually to try to monitor progress towards meeting 1 year's growth in 1 year's time. But also what we would say to the community is making progress towards the CASP exam, right? Making sure that they're at their grade level. And through just our work with leadership team to partners in practice to going to Stanford, we realized that the diagnostic isn't meeting the needs in which we need it to do. There are better products out there, and there are higher performing districts currently that we're catching up to, and we're going to kick their butt soon, but that are utilizing 2 other tools that last night, actually, a lot of our teachers and our administration were here till almost 6 p.m. Meeting with those 2 programs to vet out a recommendation to bring back to the board in replacement from the work that we're doing. And so we want to be able to utilize this diagnostic tool, which becomes formative and then almost even summative, meaning we can start it from the start of the school year, use it multiple times throughout the school year, and really get a great gauge on where our students are performing from kinder all the way to 11th grade, which we have not in the past done a lot of diagnostic assessments in that 9th and 10th grade year with Renaissance. It kind of stopped at 8th grade. We're now extending it up into 2 additional grade bands so we can see how our 11th grade students are doing, how our 9th grade. So thank you for asking that question. We're super excited. So hopefully we'll bring something to you in May with a final decision. That'll be one of the topics that they'll discuss tomorrow during their math leadership team as well.
Right. And the only reason I mentioned that is because I heard a comment about the fact that some of the students have said that the questions that they're getting on the diagnostic do not match what they're doing in the class or what they're learning in the curriculum. And I'm grateful to hear that this is something that is going to happen very soon.
Yep.
Thank you again. I'm very appreciative of the actionable steps that you're taking and the commitment that we're seeing from everybody to improve our outcomes. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kraushauer, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Alex Bott?
Yes.
Mary Wells?
Yes.
Judith Manicherry?
Yes.
Rochelle Marcus?
Yes.
Dr. Amanda Stern?
Yes.
Noah Margot?
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. That will do it for consent calendar.
Can I make a little comment that something that really struck me as we were doing this? We were pulling LMNOP. And I have to tell you, there's a book out there by that name, LMNOP. It is perhaps the most clever book I've ever read in my life. If you ever can pick it up, of course, you won't see it as LMNOP. You'll see it as Ella, E-L-L-A, minnow as in the little fish, and P as in the vegetable. And it's called LMNOP. And you've got to read it. It's a fabulous book.
Did you write it?
No, unfortunately, I didn't. I read it many years ago, and it's always stuck with me. And I just had that opportunity to bring that out just now.
It's very catchy. I thought of it when I said it because we had that conversation when you recommended it.
Okay, let's move on to reports. Thank you for that plug, Rochelle. Alex, go ahead.
Okay. I have lots of exciting stuff for this report. Starting with just what's been going on. This goes a little bit back into the end of March and then through April. The first thing is going back to the very end of March, right after our last board meeting. I just wanted to give a huge thank you to both BHHS PTSA and co-principal Ms. Degatrell for hosting this incredible panel that closed out Women's History Month, where PTSA brought in a panel of women in leadership from a variety of different fields, from government with Mayor Lily Bossie and all these other incredible women. And just thank you so much to them for sharing their career experience, and it really just enlightened all of our students. So thank you so much for that. Next, we have quite a few competitions to talk about. The first one is a few weeks ago, Skills USA was hosted in Ontario, and both the BHHS culinary program and KBEV attended the competition. And a huge congratulations to advanced culinary student Ari Normand on winning the silver award.
Wow.
And that's him with Chef Lise.
What did he cook?
I'm not sure. I should ask, but. Another competition was the Forum Music Festival in San Diego, attended by BHHS Mixed Chorale, which is the mini singers and the madrigals. And they received not only a gold rating, which is the highest rating they can possibly win, but they also won an award of excellence for tenor. Then also, last week was the instrumental music concert, so a huge congratulations to the instrumental music students and Mr. Klotzel. I unfortunately could not be there, that's why I don't have any photos, but I heard that it was amazing. And then kind of some other things that are going on. So the month of April is Healthy Relationships Month in Normanade. So all the programs in Normanade for this month kind of follow the theme Healthy Relationships Equal Healthy Minds. And earlier this month, Normanade hosted a lunchtime event where peer counselors led a discussion about healthy relationships, and students were able to decorate picture frames, and then we put our goals for healthy relationships in the picture frames. And this is just an example of the kind of things that Normanade does to get students to kind of engage in discussions about topics that maybe they're not so used to talking about with their friends and other people. And it was a really good event, and I always enjoy when I go to the Normanade events. The next thing is PBIS. And I know that, especially towards the end of this board meeting, something that's kind of been at the forefront of the attention in the district has been kind of behavioral issues throughout the district. And while I think a lot of the time negative things kind of overshadow the positive, I just wanted to share that while we may have some issues, there are so many students in our district who are just exemplary students for the rest of their peers, and PBIS is celebrating those students. So last Friday, our students who were nominated as Noble Normans got a chance to enjoy a very well-deserved treat. So there are incredible students out there, and the majority of our students are. So just want to share that. The next thing is that I also think is absolutely incredible is the BHHS art show is currently on display in the media center, and I highly recommend you stop by because I think there's a lot of hidden talent here at the high school that you don't always get to see, especially things like this. And it's really our own little museum, and it was just so cool walking by today. I think I went in at a time that I wasn't supposed to, but I got to enjoy it by myself, so it was really nice. And then another thing is the week of April 17th was National High School Voter Education Week, and so ASB held a voter registration week where students ages 17 and 16 were able to pre-register to vote, and then students ages 18 years old were able to register to vote during lunch. And just thank you to all the ASB students who were there and running the drive. And then just two things that are upcoming in May. The first thing, and April, the first thing is this Thursday is actually our annual BHHS French cabaret that the French program puts on every year. And this is our second year doing it outside in the STC courtyard. And last year it was just amazing and an incredible ambiance. So please come and watch our French students perform French music, skits, poetry, and there will also be French treats for sale, and Culinary, I believe, is also cooking up some stuff. And there will be a silent auction that begins at 6, and the program begins at 7. And if you'd like to hear me speak French, I will be emceeing and performing, but I won't tell you what. And then last thing is BHHS Prom 2023 will be on May 13th at the Avalon Hollywood, and the theme this year is A Night in Hollywood. And that's it. Oh, and yesterday it dawned on me that I have 2 board meetings left after today, so very sad, but yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Alex.
It's heartbreaking, Alec. Thank you very much. Colleagues, if there's any comments, you don't feel pressed, but
I'd just like to thank you, Alex. It's great to see you. I feel like it's been some time since we've had our last board meeting, so it's really nice to see you. I'm sad there's only 2 more board meetings with you, but we will cherish each and every one that's left.
Alex, thank you. And every time you make your board report, I'm exhausted just listening. So thank you for attending all of those and representing this board at, all those events and reminding us of all the good stuff that is going on at BHUSD and especially the high school. I appreciate it.
I'm going to miss you. And at least I get 2 more sessions with you. I have to tell you, you have done a magnificent job of presenting what's going on and keeping us informed. And many of the things I was about to say tonight, you've already mentioned. And so I just want to thank you for being there on the Smile. I miss sitting next to you. And I know I'm going to hear about you in Georgetown.
Thank you as always for that colorful report, and really enjoyed seeing you blossom throughout this year, and we're going to miss you. So let's make these last 2 board meetings really count. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I was hoping you wouldn't mention the cabaret night because then people will bid against me for the silent auction. And I know they have a great silent auction. And Georgetown says hi, bud. Without further ado, this Dr. Breggy has been attending meetings on the Hill, going to conference lectures and all that, and putting together this report for tonight. He's nonstop, this guy. So I'm just, without further ado, here he is, our illustrious superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Margot. It's great to see everybody. And Alex, thank you for the great report. I really do appreciate shared about PBIS and the importance of recognizing positive behavior. I've always learned early on as a teacher that what gets recognized gets repeated, and so that recognition piece is truly really important. I'd like to start off by again letting you know that we're here in Washington for Coast conference training. We're having a great time. It's a worthwhile experience. There is a lot of training that happens. There's a lot of advocacy that happens. We have an opportunity, along with other school board members, superintendents, and a number of cabinet members here in Washington, D.C. with us to advocate for their district when it comes to the type of funding and the type of programs that we want to keep in our school district. So it's just been a great experience. We want to thank the entire board for allowing us to have this opportunity to meet with the most prominent people in Washington, D.C. So I want to start off talking about something that, not something that I typically talk about. Usually when we talk we are going to ask that if Alex didn't cover it, then it's on our Instagram account. Because I'm going to talk about something a little bit different tonight. We are going through a shifting environment in our school district, but not only here, but all over the country. And I just want to have a moment to frame a conversation with you that we're going to continue. I'm going to frame this conversation, and we'll come right back to it after we talk about some planning and facilities. But I wanted to have the opportunity first to just have an honest conversation with you about some behavior issues that are happening in our community. And I do want to acknowledge up front that we, along with people throughout the country, even superintendents that I've had the chance to talk to over the last several days, that we are experiencing a lot of student behavior and some poor decisions that are happening. And we're all very, very concerned. And we want to be able to work together to make sure that we can come up with some resolutions. And I know that we can.
Could you just check with Zoom land if they can hear you better now?
Yes, can you hear me better? Okay, great. So, I spend more time than you might imagine thinking about how to be most effective leader for our school district. And you've heard through my board reports or when I get a chance to see you in person that, I feel all of the emotions, the best of the best, but also those struggling times when we have issues and concerns in our community and some of the issues and matters that are happening. And lately, I've really been perseverating vehemently about some of the decisions that are happening in our school district that are not only happening in our school district during the day, but things that are happening after hours, into the evenings and weekends as well. And I'm really trying to stay on top and having a pulse of what's happening in not only our school community, but our larger community in Beverly Hills as well. And although this is also a national conversation, I have to say and bring it back to a personal level, that it's really important that we have a conversation, not about just what's happening in the district and some of the choices that students are making, but the impact to other students in our school district and their safety based on what some students are doing and some of the choices that they are making. I've spent a lot of time talking to parents, our staff, our administrators, and just getting a better insight of what's happening with our discipline, the consequences, in a very straightforward and safe space. And as superintendent, it's really critical for me to be able to understand what our school site administration, so our principals, assistant principals, what's happening in their schools, in order for me to help identify what some of those root causes are and some of those underlying issues that seem to be manifested in some misguided behavior. Collectively, confidently, our leadership team knows that we can't start putting blame on things. As Alex mentioned earlier, with PBIS, it's not about placing blame on a program like PBIS, policies or procedures, cell phones, social media, the pandemic, a certain specific school site. And we also know that we can't point fingers at our schools, our teachers, our administrators, our parents, and most importantly, at each other. And tonight, I just want to have an opportunity to talk with you a little bit about how important these conversations are about discipline, consequences. And this is one of those opportunities where we're all going to have to listen. We're all going to have to pull together so we can hear each other out, we can talk, and then work together to find solutions. So we do have a problem, and I acknowledge the fact that there are issues that are happening in our school district, in our classrooms, that are happening on weekend events that are non-school issues, that are happening at Century City, that are happening at outside places in LA. And yes, it is a problem, and it does shift away from our strategic plan and our focus on educational excellence. And, I do want to say, and again, I'm so glad that Alex spoke first, because the other thing that Alex mentioned that was really important is the fact that, the students that we do have in our school district, we have the brightest and we have the best students in the country. And I've had an opportunity, especially over the last few months during a very challenging time, to speak with not only our students and our parents, but also our community members too. I've reached out to people who work in the Century City Mall, who are working in some of the businesses outside of our school district, so that I could get a better sense of what's happening in our community. And I've also spent some time meeting with BHEA leadership, with President Lena Castanon, to get her insight from teachers, what's happening in our classrooms. And working together, we know that we can prevent and significantly improve the student behavior that's happening and some of the choices that are happening that we're currently facing in our school district. Again, just to kind of go macro just for a minute, this is a really serious, important issue that I'm going to come right back to, but I do want you to be aware that, throughout the entire country, voices of superintendents, there's surveys out there that also provide information for us and give us some direction on what's happening, so that it's not just school specific or at a certain area of the country. But there was a survey that was provided, and this is by AASA, this is the Superintendents Association, and they worked with a third-party consultant to to start to look at some of the behavior, some of the statistics that are out there by touching base with school superintendents. And this is over 200 school districts, 37 states. And there's a couple of findings that are very interesting that I want to point out. One of them is that 81% of the district leaders agree that the student behavior is worse now than it was before the pandemic. And more than 1/3 of 35% of the superintendents are saying that it is significantly worse. In addition, 92% of superintendents in 37 states, 200 school districts, have said that the mental health crisis among students has worsened since 2019. And 57% said that it is significantly worse. So two important focus areas that are happening across the country, but also where we're experiencing those challenges in our school district as well. So I want to talk to you a little bit about just creating a system and a support area in our school district so that we can look at our student discipline and look at some strategies and come up with ways that we can look at our supporting policies. We enthusiastically agree that it's been a tough time. And I think we've all said it over and over and over. I know people are very tired about hearing about the after pandemic, but we all know that we're going through a challenging time. And I think that if everybody in our organization, from positions in our school all the way to our district office, and including mine as a superintendent, is that we need to come together. We need to do better, and we need to focus more on the student and what the student needs. We've kind of admired this problem for a while, hoping that as the days progressed after the pandemic, that we would start to see some improvement, but there is some manifestation there that is starting to cause a lot of concern for us. And we want to make sure that we address it head on, talk about it like I'm talking about it here, so that we can work together so that we can solve a lot of these issues. So some of the issues I want to talk to you about is some of the needs that we have. So, the best example that I can give you is when we have an issue in the district, whether it's a crisis or whether the student makes a bad decision when it comes to drugs or alcohol. We have what's known as a first-time offenders program. And the model of that is that the student comes in and has an intake process. And that intake process is a really important time, because as I started to get involved with some of the things that were happening in the community, and yes, I got involved in what was happening in the community, kind of out of my lane, so to speak, and started to have conversations with people that were making bad choices in the community. A lot of people would say, not your job. Well, we share the same kids. So I would argue that it is my job. During those conversations, I was able to find out that there's a lot more that's going on than just a poor decision. And so through this process of having a proper intake, that's when you get to know the student. So some of the families that I met with that were involved, and I'll use the Century City Mall example. When I was started to meet with families of students that were involved, I was able to learn that there's a lot more that's going on than just the behavior I saw on a 30 to 45 second clip that looked horrendous. And so through those meetings and through those opportunities, through this kind of intake process, I was able to see that families needed some help and didn't know where to go. And there was a lot of other impacting factors that lent itself to making some poor decisions. And those were not being treated or handled. And so that was a great opportunity for me to be able to sit back and work with those families, work with our city partners to find those resources that are best for those families. It isn't about just a check-in, check-out when you're on school property. It's about the community and the school community working together. And so I was able to find that that was a need that we have, because especially for those chronic students that are either absent or continuously making bad decisions, there's something else going on besides just a learning mistake or a time to learn and grow. That there's something that's happening where they need some more support and more of our time and investment in helping them get to a point where they can improve their decision making. And so that's one thing that we're starting to look at. And there is a conversation that we will have later in the board meeting about some ideas from that are being presented about having some additional support in certain areas that are going to be supportive of families, so that we're not just treating kind of symptoms, that we're able to help families get the resources that they need. It's kind of a like full wraparound support system. And I truly believe that we have a responsibility to help families do that. You can see on this slide that there is some additional things when I was meeting with principals and with union leadership, Melena Castanon, that there's some thoughts and ideas behind, really trying to get at the root cause of some of the things that are happening. And you can see here, it's a list of things from having some support for an alternative to suspension, because the research is out there. It's very clear that those students that are suspended, even though I do understand that people feel like justice has been served when somebody's been provided a lengthy suspension, that there is an opportunity for kids to not only learn from their mistakes, but also then keep up with their studies. The research will show you that the students that are out for an out-of-school suspension, the longer that they're out, the more difficult it is for them to catch up, and then those behaviors then start to manifest and start to get worse. There are a lot of things here in this list that you can see that we'd like to start looking at and exploring to see if there is a way that we can come together to start putting together a model to support the policies that we have, but to then also, start looking at systems and supports in place so that we can get kids and families the support that they need. You can see here that there's some language about continuation, alternative placements. And I'll be honest, there's often times where there's not a lot that really impacts our kids. We have a lot of students that don't seem to be impacted by out-of-school suspensions. There are some students and families that don't change or correct behavior because of consequences. And those are the ones that become those chronic situations that seem to get worse and worse, not only in our schools, but then also out in the community. So you can see in this list that there are some ideas that we're mulling over to look to see what would be an appropriate consequence for a student that is chronically, and just as an example, bullying another student. We know that there are some continuation programs that actually, for those chronic students, that actually remove the student from that learning environment. So it could be a student that's removed from a school and still provided their education, but not in the school where their friends are at. And so it's trying to find something so that students actually will take seriously the requirement to behave appropriately. Again, not for every student, but for those chronic students that behavior or feel inclined to do so because of a consequence, that we need to start looking at what's appropriate. And oftentimes it isn't just lengthening a suspension out of school. It may be that student needs to be out of that school for some time, maybe a quarter, and then they work themselves back to where, when we can trust your behavior, you are back in the school with your friends, and you move on and you make changes to your behavior. So you can see there's a list here that we're looking at, and I just wanted to share with you that it's a lot more than a rubber stamp. The behavior of just stamping detentions and stamping out of school suspensions, it's not working. And we have to get to the root cause. And oftentimes it's removing from the environment, but it's also could be providing supports to the family that are impacting the entire family, which is then impacting the student in our schools. So one thing I have up here, this is just an example, but I do want to say that there's an area of improvement that I would like to see. And as I said earlier, I think we can all do better. And this is an area where we can do better. And I would like to be able to create some systems in place so that we collect the data the same way. So this is just one example, but if I were to kind of change this and make this a little bit more relevant, but let's say that the objective was to decrease the number of bullying complaints at a specific school. Then this is the kind of thing where we can start to track the number of bullying. So instead of like the number of student suspensions, it is now charting and looking at the number of bullying complaints in that particular school year for that specific school site. Because what would be nice is to get a common way to record things. Right now, there's a list of letters that are available to us. And as I started to look at some of the data, I wondered myself, like, why is this, a K? Why is this an N? Why is this? And I spent a lot of time looking to see if I could tell what the difference was. And there's ways that we can do that in-house, but I want to be able to be transparent. I want to be able to share with parents where our real issues are. And so we have that capability. We just need to pull that together. And I would really like to put together a very transparent process and a way to collect this data information so that we could share that. I was sharing with some colleagues earlier that as a high school principal, I used to share on a monthly basis. I used to share this type of information with my staff at a faculty meeting because I would say, look, I need your help. And I would say, look, and it would be anything from like bullying or physical fighting or disrespect to staff. Wow, you'd be shocked at the number of students that are disrespectful to our staff. And I want to be able to show you that. I want to be able to find that information, share it, but then also find ways to improve it. Because if you don't identify it, you're not going to be able to improve it. And so there's systems that I would like to put into place going forward so that I can not only share that with our parents, but with our Board of Education, with our teachers, because I think that this should be a very transparent way to collect information. We all have to come together. So why not share the information that we're collecting so that we're all working towards the same type of improvement? So you can see there's setting goals here. There's targets. It's a very simple way to be able to collect this data. And like I said, it could be from a bullying complaint to physical fighting to really anything, disrespect to staff, chronic absenteeism, tardies. It kind of runs the whole gamut there. So next, I had a really great conversation with our principals and assistant principals, Dr. Horvath, Ms. Collins-Williams, about just, what can we do? Like I'm hearing things that really do impact us. As I started my presentation, I talked to you a little bit about how, people were kind of looking at me a little bit strangely when I was really upset about the Century City issue. I was really very upset. Dr. Scott and I were really upset when we had learned that a student had stolen a tip jar off of a cash register on Beverly Boulevard. It's those types of things that we take so personally because those are our students. And that does matter. It's not that it's after school, after hours. Those are our students. So those are the students that are coming back the next morning, and that's the type of behavior. And so we feel that responsibility. And so we can't do this alone. I would never expect anybody to do this alone, just as if I don't expect anyone and will not allow and tolerate anybody to start pointing fingers at one another. Because collectively, we have a problem and we're going to tackle this problem together. One of the things I'd like to do is, and I'm sharing this just for the first time, and so our board has not had an opportunity to even weigh in, but I'm super excited when we get to this portion in just a short time that I get some information from our board. We're at a point where we need to involve the entire community. And so putting together a superintendent's advisory council that's really dedicated to this cause. And so reaching out to our religious leaders that have such a strong impact in our community, our city leaders, the police department, the business owners I was just talking about. Like, I want that guy where that tip jar was stolen. I want him in our group. These are the people that really need to be part of what the solution is, what the answer is, and how we're going to get there. And it's usually the group that's always left out, right? Because this is the group that is, they're really not part of our inner school community. And so that's why this is a little different than probably something that you've ever seen or heard before. But I feel like it's a necessary step, because if we don't embrace our students, the students of Beverly Hills, then who will? And so this is kind of an effort. This is an opportunity that I'm really excited about, to where we're going to kind of phase in some people to get some information. But I'd love to have an advisory that's looking at our current policies, because that's really important, and to be proactive, not reactive, but really proactive, but looking at our policies, looking at our current procedures, and getting and having discussions about what's happening, what's working, what's not working, and getting some people in the community that feel the same way that we do about that these are our students, whether you're, at a restaurant, or you're purchasing something at the mall, or you're in your French class. That it's important that we all take this responsibility for our students as they continue to grow and learn, and then move on into adolescence. And so this is a type of group that I'd like to put together so that we can not only review policies, again, outside of our school population, to get a lot of people from the outside, or religious leaders and business owners. I really want to get their input, and I'm super excited about that. But then also to discuss kind of the ways that we can make improvements so that it makes sense. And then how can we check to see that there is improvement and that there is progress? And I really want to tap into that. And the idea really came about because we had a Return to Learn think tank that was really one of the most successful committees, advisory groups that I've ever put together. And, this was bringing in people from the outside, people from the medical field, people that, worked in different industries. And to have that knowledge shared with us on top of what was happening in our schools with our school staff was so valuable for us to have a successful experience moving out of COVID-19. And if I can replicate something like that has occurred, that really changed the course of what occurred after the pandemic, then it's worth it to try it again. As I mentioned, we're going to come back to this and we're going to have some further discussions led by some of our board members. But I hope that you feel like I do, that sitting here acknowledging in a public way that I have a concern is kind of putting me in a really vulnerable position, but it's an honest one. And it's one that I think that we can conquer and that we can do together, because at the end of the day, these kids are our responsibility, no matter what time of day it is. So I want to thank you. The report's a lot different than what I normally do, but I wanted to at least frame this conversation that we're going to have with our board members in just a few minutes. So thank you very much.
Okay. It's craziness. Thank you, everyone. In the interest of the topic, and I know we're all champing at the bit to comment on Dr. Breggy's report, since that is covered in items 11B and C, I would like to move to those items. We'll go back to the other items on the agenda so we can have a continuity in the conversation. Before we begin the conversation, we have 2 public comments on this issue. So I would like to have those parents address the board, and then we can take both 11B and C and go forward. So I'd like to call up, and Dr. Stern, you're on the timer, correct?
I'm new at running the timer, but I think I can handle it. So,
Okay, fabulous. You'll have a great time. So I'd like to start off with Nikki Shomsey first. We'll have 3 minutes.
okay. Okay. Thank you, Nikki. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello. I would like the board and the community to be aware of the ongoing and increasing anti-Semitic incidents on our campuses. Just last week on Yom HaShoah, Jewish Holocaust Remembrance Day, a 5th grade student at Horace Mann drew a picture of a swastika in class. Some would call this a hate crime. This student was later rewarded with candy for admitting to this appalling act, whereas the students demanding justice had their voices stifled and were forced to write apology letters. Why was this horrid event taken so lightly? Why was it kept so quiet? And why wasn't it used as a teaching opportunity? Other like events have occurred recently without being properly and publicly addressed, such as another BHUSD student doing a Nazi salute and saying profanities to Jews, or in the upper schools where anti-Semitic slurs and Holocaust jokes have run rampant in the halls. Parents have been asking the district to address Jew hatred for years. When will the board hear the community's cries for mandatory staff training on anti-Semitism and adoption of age-appropriate Jewish civil rights and Holocaust history into our curriculum? There are a lot of Jewish kids and families in this district, and they don't feel represented, nor protected or heard. So I think this kind of ties all of what we spoke about, the whole, Holocaust remembrance, Yom HaShoah, and the Butterfly Project we were talking about earlier, and dealing with, students. And I wouldn't necessarily blame the student. He may or may not have known what he drew meant, but I think as adults and administrators, we're all responsible for teaching and using everything as an opportunity to, teach students history and respect for each other.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. On Zoom, we have Dr. Leviadin. If I pronounced that right, I'm sorry. Carissa, are you there? Yes.
If she's not there, the next person is in person, Sigali Sabag.
No, that's on a different item, different agenda item. Her hand is raised.
The same. Okay.
If it is related
Okay, thank you. It wasn't allowing me to get in.
Okay. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. The recent incidents in our community have shown us that bullying and discrimination are ongoing. It can affect everyone. Those who are bullied, those who bully, and those who witness bullying. Bullying is and impacts mental health, substance abuse, and suicide. Kids who are bullied can experience negative physical, social, emotional, academic, and mental health issues. Kids who are bullied are more likely to experience depression, anxiety, increased feelings of sadness and loneliness, changes in sleep and eating patterns, and loss of interest in activities they used to enjoy. Most of these students have health complaints, decreased academic achievement, PAA standardized test scores, school participation. They are more likely to miss, skip, or drop out of school. The recent events have occurred off campus and on campus with and without violence. Innocent children are being injured and being subject to hatred. We must teach our children that they cannot spread their hatreds, segregate, and act violently towards one another, regardless of what they think of them. We need to have a comprehensive bullying plan, and I thank Dr. Breggy for introducing, at least starting, an advisory committee. We need this plan for students who are bullying others or engaging in violent and aggressive behavior on and off campus. We also need a plan to decrease the separation of the schools and create a united community. All areas of the school campus should be monitored by staff, and all activities on and off campus should be addressed with appropriate consequences and action for repair and place. The students I've spoken to about the recent incident feel scared to be at school and prefer not to go. They say that parents and staff are not aware of all occurrences. There is bullying and discrimination on multiple levels on all of the campus. It's a result of upbringing and discrimination of disability, sexual orientation, social status, religion, nationality, race, color, and sex. We must teach these students about social rules and how to behave with kindness and with others in society. As adults, we are not allowed to do as we please in society, and we must abide by social rules even if we dislike someone. Parents and administrators must respect one another and work together to create a safe and respectful environment where the whole BHUSD community can learn and thrive together. On a separate note, there has been a reoccurrence of anti-Semitic slurs and swastikas. It has happened at Hawthorne and recently at Beverly Vista and Horseman. This stems from ignorance and hatred. We need to educate our students about hate crimes, historic events such as genocides and the Holocaust. We need to increase knowledge and community, and I would be more than happy to help that happen, but I really appreciate our administration getting on board with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. I think there might be a couple of more. There was a miscommunication. So, Sagali, I believe you are addressing this topic.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'd like to thank Dr. Brick. I'm supposed to have 6 minutes. I don't know if this is what.
Yes,
it is.
that's true.
Okay, thank you. So I want to thank Dr. Bragi for his report because he touched on everything actually that I wanted to speak about. You can come with me. And my son wanted to be here also. So basically what I wanted to touch, I didn't write anything, so I'm not prepared. But what I did want to touch upon is the anti-Semitism. And the reason it has to do, it's directly related and connected to bullying and hatred and crime. And I've heard of what happened. My son was actually a witness of what happened. So I just put together, I spoke to people who know Holocaust survivors and a very professional that can talk to the children, and I want to make sure that it's age appropriate. I think if we have the opportunity to have a Holocaust survivor speak to our children, it would be amazing. And the reason I check that is because my son was in shock that his fellow students knew nothing. They didn't know what the Holocaust meant. They didn't know what Nazi meant. They didn't know what swastika was. They didn't know anything. So he knows a lot. He's a history buff. He watches documentaries, and we actually were in Poland, and he was at a concentration camp. And I think that every single history is important. So if we, like I was at the PAC with Mr. Bugby, and Ms. Pierce had mentioned that, well, if we're going to do that, we should have somebody that was, in slavery. And absolutely, anybody in the cotton fields, anybody who, experienced anything in history should speak to the kids. But in regards to anti-Semitism, it has risen beyond belief. We have a problem, and we don't want our kids to be a part of it. We don't want any kids to be a part of it. We want to make sure that they're aware and they're not ignorant about it, and that they're taught. Because for a teacher to speak to a student and say, who did this, and for the students to say, what is that, is a little shocking. Even though they mentioned also it could be a sign of another religion or whatnot. So we need to teach the kids and educate the kids. And did you want to say anything? Yeah. Do you want to say your experience? Yeah? Yeah. Okay.
When I was in my school last week ago, I was in Makerspace. And so I was sitting next to the person I was sitting next to the person who was drawing the swastika, and it was a glue gun that he was writing on. It was a black paper, and he was drawing the swastika. And so then, when I was going nearby it, I saw him. He was about to write it. And so then, my teacher told me not to be near the glue guns because I wasn't allowed to. So then I went back to my seat. And so then 2 days later, I was in science, and the makerspace teacher came to the science class and said she needed to talk to her class after science. So then we went to the makerspace class. So then she said, 2 days ago I saw this, and a lot of students didn't know what it meant, and one of my friends didn't even know what it meant. So then I was actually in shock because I didn't really know why people would do that. And so then she told us what it meant, and she said, whoever's a witness, please come talk to me. And I was one of the witnesses. So then I said, I saw him. I saw the kid who was
besides, we don't want to blame anybody. We're not saying the kid did, he's a bad, of course he's not. I even spoke to the father. But the point is that they didn't understand what it was. And what did you explain the Holocaust was? What do you know of the Holocaust?
What I know about the Holocaust is about they killed about 6 million Jews and people that were gay and lesbian and like people that were not normal,
And that's pretty age appropriate from hatred. And I think our kids in Beverly Hills not knowing that simple fact is scary. And I think we're better than that. And I think we need to at least teach age appropriate. Even if it goes from first grade, some teachers may not agree with me, but it would be age appropriate. And I think it should be in the curriculum. And if it is, I didn't know that it wasn't, honestly. I didn't. So I didn't know my son knew more. So that was interesting. And so I wanted to put together Holocaust survivors to speak in an assembly before the school ends in May. So if we can do that, I have people that are very professional and survivors that would speak to every age group. Maybe we can do one day and just do it from all the schools. All the schools would benefit of that. So that would be something we'd appreciate very much. And I have that. So I already put that together. Just tell me the day. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Were there any other comments related to bullying or student behavior?
Someone has raised their hand. Yes. Hello. Bahari, yes.
Okay.
So someone seated 3 minutes? Okay, so 6 minutes total. Tell us your name again. Aria.
My name is Alan.
Oh, Alan.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alan Yektofar, and I'm a 6th grader at Beverly Vista Middle School. Although there has been some recent negative things going on outside of school, today I wanted to share my amazing experience going on in school. Beverly Vista Middle School is an outstanding school with a supportive and welcoming community. Both my older brother and sister are BV alumni, and they still consider this school part of their lives growing up. When I first arrived there from Horseman, I was a bit nervous, but I was quickly embraced by the administrators, teachers, and students who made me feel at home. I have had the opportunity to meet so many new friends who come from different backgrounds and have different interests, but we all share the same love for learning. The teachers at Beverly Vista are amazing. They're always there to help and support us in any way they can. They can make learning fun and engaging, and they challenge us to be our best selves. The classrooms are not like regular classrooms. I have a couch in my history classroom. This makes learning even more exciting and unique. The extracurricular activities at Beverly Vista are so incredible. There are so many clubs and organizations to choose from, and they cater to all interests. I love sports, so I've been able to participate in every single season of sports. This would not have been possible if we didn't have a dedicated middle school and dedicated coaches. My older brother is so jealous that I get to play sports for my middle school team, and he didn't. It's been so much fun, and I've made so many friends. The school has a beautiful campus, which is always clean and well maintained. There's a beautiful reading green and lots of activities during lunchtime. I never not felt safe at Beverly Vista Middle School. When I had an issue, Dr. Scon and Miss Halsey have always been there to help me. They even checked back with me later to make sure I was still okay. Overall, my experience at Beverly Vista Middle School has been amazing. I have learned so much, made new friends, and have had so much fun. I'm grateful for the opportunity to attend such an amazing school, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. I was waiting for a but that was welcome comments. Dr. Stern, anybody else? Since I can't see the audience.
Does not look like it, no.
Great. We're going to turn this conversation over to my colleagues. I just want to preface this by saying that discussing student behavior is really the purview of staff. In our regards, it's policy. So we can have a free-for-all conversation that can go on for 10 hours about this. We all have so much to say, but I like, in the interest of respect for our position, respect for staff's position in this, to kind of gear it around what the board's parameters are, what we can do to help this situation as a board in looking at policy and giving direction. Okay, so keep that in mind as we continue this conversation. Alex, we can start with you if you'd like, or you can pass.
Yeah, sure. First, just thank you, Dr. Breggy, for your report tonight and for the level of transparency that you provided around the issue, and also just for setting up an advisory committee, which I think is an incredible idea. But I would like to address student behavior just as a student and not, as a student board member. From what I've been noticing, these student behavior issues are no doubt rooted in deeper causes and deeper issues that whether the students are facing at home or with their friends or whatever it may be. And I just wanted to remind students and parents that there are resources available, whether it's Norman-Aid, Bulldog Aid, and PBIS. And, I think during these kind of situations, sometimes things can be thrown out at those programs. But those programs like Norman-Aid are meant to be more proactive in addressing these issues than they are supposed to be reactive. But they can't help students unless students are encouraged to seek out these resources. So that's all. That's what I wanted to say, is that they're there and they're there for you to use.
Those two items go together. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Mrs. Wells?
Thank you, Noah. As far as the purview of the board is concerned, I think you're right, Noah. It's our job to set the policy and the expectations for the school district. And so because we've been hearing a lot of feedback about behaviors and bullying and to a certain extent hate crimes, I really went back and looked at our board policy. So starting there, I really wanted to understand where are we on our board policy, because as we have been doing for the last 12 months is going back and revising and reviewing our board policy and updating it. And many of these policies are in the 5,000s. So I went back and I looked up our board policy around bullying, conduct, disruptions, as well as suspension and expulsion. And last year, at the beginning of the school year, we also adopted a policy around civility because we know that we didn't have one as a district. And I think that what I see in our policy is that we have identified and have always identified that We want to provide a safe learning environment for our students, and I'll just read our board policy around bullying as an intro. The Board of Education recognizes the harmful effects of bullying on student learning and school attendance and desires to provide safe school environments that protect students from physical and emotional harm. District employees shall establish student safety as a high priority and shall not tolerate bullying of any student. No individual or group shall, through physical, written, verbal, or other means, harass, sexually harass, threaten, intimidate, cyberbully, cause bodily injury to, or commit hate violence against any student or school personnel. And that's just the intro on our bullying policy. So as I look at our policies, many of the things that we're talking about as what our expectations are of what we want at our school district, we have in our policies, and I would advise, I recommend to our board that we have set aside time where we can really look at our policies and review these as a group and have feedback to see if there's any gaps in these policies based on the feedback that we're getting now that need to be added into our policies. And as well, I welcome an advisory group to also inform the board on other gaps that they may see in our policies. But these policies are very, they're broad, but they also they cover a lot, and they're very, very specific around what our expectations are as a district. I think the challenge that we have is that times have changed, and we're hearing some feedback about behaviors based on since we came back from COVID. And to Alex's point, it's not all students, but we are hearing about an increase in behavior and bullying that we don't want for our school district. And I think it's really important to hear from our parent body what their experiences are and where they see those gaps, and forming an advisory committee. I would also include in that advisory committee for feedback and to identify solutions. I would include, because we're talking about the community at large, I would include our AYSO, I would include BHBL, because these are all also activities that our student community participates in that also affects what ends up happening in our schools. I think that when I think about what is the solution here, I'd like to also hear from our school sites about how we communicate what the expectations are to the students and the families and what the consequences are for that. Because I think there may also be, that's an area we need to look at. It may have been working well enough before, but now I think we need to be much, much clearer at the beginning of the school year what the expectations are, what the policies are, and what is the procedures and the consequences for behaviors, so that students and parents are well aware of it and that it's really communicated to them throughout the year if they are students that need to have that feedback or their behaviors are putting them in those positions where they are going to be susceptible to these consequences and what those consequences are. I just really think as a board, it's for us to set the policy and to support and to hear feedback from the community about what's not working so that we can address it through the policy, but then support our administration and the district in developing what those strategies and identifying those goals and what those strategies are to ensure that we are creating and ensuring and reinforcing the school environment that we all want to have, that really provides an environment for us to have educational excellence and for us to help our children develop to the human beings that we all know and want them to be.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Wells. And I really sincerely appreciate you starting off addressing this with the policy. Mrs. Manicherry?
Thank you so much. I do think this is a complicated situation. And I know that a lot of the parents are alarmed at what they've been seeing and what we've been seeing. It's clear that, the kids are kids and they're developing and they're growing up. So there's that, but also there is damaging conduct that is displayed by a smaller group who do attend our schools, and it's really unfortunate. And the variety of this behavior is also pretty vast in this time, in this day of age. We've got the in-person bullying, the cyberbullying, rough and tough physical behavior, vaping, the disrespect of personal property, bad language toward one another, staff, community, and also just a general disregard. I don't think any of us is saying all the kids are doing it or that the kids are doing it all the time. I do think that we're saying that the actions of some are creating a less than desirable environment for others. And I'm glad that we're having this discussion today. I know it's something that a lot of parents have been asking for a few weeks. This is our first April meeting at the end of the month, so it's great to all be here together and be discussing it openly. I do acknowledge that as a school district we have limitations, especially when the behavior is displayed outside of school. To Noah's point, board members, district staff, and school admin, we are sometimes limited in our role. We're not the parents and we're not the police officers, and it's not necessarily easy to curtail online harassment. And recently we've been advised businesses on Beverly Drive complain about our students' behavior when they're at their shops. We've seen videos of our students beating others up in public, and we've been informed that some Beverly Hills restaurants will no longer allow our students to dine at their venues without parents, which is really sad to me. And in speaking to our staff and parents the last few weeks, I think we can all recognize a lot of these incidents happen outside of school, but some of them also happen inside of our school, and I think that it's really important that as a district we hit that head on, and sooner is better. And so I think the Principals Advisory Council is great, but I worry about the timeline and the breadth of it, and I think that we need for our community to know that our professionals, which is our cabinet and our admin, we trust them to be the professionals and to guide us toward a policy much sooner than later is my hope. Because I think it's our responsibility as a board to create a safe zone, and I'm not sure that all the kids are feeling safe right now. Whether it's perception or reality, we've reached a point where there's such an intermingling of those two that it's got to be addressed regardless, I would say. And I would ask my colleagues, as a group, if we can confirm that we agree on an instruction to Dr. Breggy, cabinet, and admin as our professionals to create a plan of action, including collaboration with community and parents, along with heightened and harsher consequences for the students at our school. One example that we have is if you're an 8th grade parent, you're getting the email that indicates, hey, if your children or if your child is getting 2 N's or a U, that means they may lose out on graduation activities. That's not what it says. Well, there are some consequences listed there. Those are some of the potential consequences. Maybe I misinterpreted it. But what I think that it does provide is, a framework of consequences to really intend to deter antisocial behavior. And to an extent which hopefully will inconvenience the parents of these children because the parents are ultimately responsible for their children. So I hope that as a board we can come together and we can, at the end of this discussion, give a clear instruction of a request for what we're hoping our admin and our cabinet to come back with, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Manager, for bringing up the this discussion because I know that when I was a teacher, and of course you know that I was a teacher a long time, I really never felt what's going on now was going on when I was a teacher. I don't know, our kids are different. I don't know what's going on, but the community, the students, there's a whole different set of attitudes that our students have. Now I'm talking about a very maybe a small number. And I always knew that I had the support of the administration if I had problems. I always knew that if I was going to send a student to the office for whatever behavior and bullying or whatever, and I just never tolerated it in my class, and it was something that I could control within my class. I always used to like to be in the hallways during passing time so that I could see what was going on, because you can always see the little shoving and pushing and so on, that the kids they're monkeying around, so to speak. But it seems to have gotten a little bit deeper now. I agree that we need to set the policies, and what I was always very much concerned with is that if students knew what the consequences were going to be and they were clearly signing their name to something, what they would have no recourse but to say, well, I guess I knew about it, they would know what the consequences are. And I do believe we need to let these students know at the beginning of the year what the consequences are going to be, and to continue to remind them that they signed this little affidavit that this is the type of behavior that we expect. And I want to thank Dr. Briggy for the fact that he's willing to now develop, because it's going to take a community. This situation has changed so drastically. It's going to take a community. It's going to take a village to help to solve this. We as the board can set the policies, but we need parents to help us with it. We need the administration to let the parents know. We need to provide the support that we can with our various organizations, with the Bulldog Aid and the Norman Aid. There just has to be a very strong control of what's going on. And we need to help the kids too, because they're the ones that are really feeling it. What I was really kind of disturbed about, I just want to take a second about this tonight, because it really did bother me. I heard it was yesterday for the first time about the incident of the swastikas and what was going on at one of the elementary schools. I didn't know anything about it, but all I could think about was what's going on in the school. And when then I heard the presentation by Hawthorne and how they are presenting this to the kids and letting them learn about it, I thought it was I thought to myself, well, what's going on and where is this coming from? So in other words, this has to be also part of this whole, this is brand new. This is not something that just, that was not there then. And we have to address things that come up as they come up. So I'm really looking forward to setting a policy, not to set the policy, but to address this policy. Use the community that we know can help us to do this. There are people in our community who can help on the advisory committee. We need to use them to help. They too should see the policies. We will adopt the policies, but we need things have changed. Maybe we need to look for some help from other sides also. So I'm very much in favor of it's going to take a village to try to correct this situation. But I don't like to think, I don't think all the children at the school are feeling this. I don't understand if they are, but I haven't heard from, I know there's a few kids, but it isn't global. I don't think it's that global, but it needs to be out there for all the students to know what will happen and what the consequences will be when they're bullying. And by the way, they need to learn how to say it, report it. That's very important. These kids have got to be told that it's safe to say something, because if they feel that, there must be a way of letting them know. And that's one thing we've got to get out there. So.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Marcus. Dr. Stern?
Thank you, Rochelle. I think the operative word that I'm focusing on is consequences. I don't know if you guys are aware, but a lot of teachers, not particularly in our district, but a lot of teachers are leaving the profession. And one thing that has struck me that I've been aware of in my interactions with various teachers from across the city, not in Beverly Hills, but a lot of them will say, a kid will do something atrocious. I call home, nothing happens. I tell the administrators, and they do what they can. They have, a sheet, a reflection sheet, so the student writes a little pat response. Nothing really significant happens that hits home with the child, so the child may well continue the misbehavior. I see this as one of the biggest problems. I, by nature, am not a disciplinarian. I get a C- at that with my own kids. They're good kids, but I'm just not good at that. But I do recognize that I do think it is lacking in general these days. I know that Knott's Berry Farm recently made a rule. I don't know the exact specificities, but it is something to the extent of if your child is under 18, they must come with an adult. Now that is something, guys, because when I was 11, 12, my friends and I used to hang out all over in Albuquerque, New Mexico, all the, the amusement parks, and you never had to have an adult with you. So things have changed, I think, nationally and globally. It's a multi-pronged problem, but we must recognize that there are some limitations that we as adults and educators can do, and I really feel that parents who have students who have been identified as offenders or bullies need to level up. They need to give consequences that are related, are meaningful to the kids, and they can process it with them. But if a teacher or educators are saying, these unbelievable things are happening, there's no reason to call home because nothing's going to change, then I feel very badly. I feel badly for the professionals who have dedicated many hours of the week to this, and to feel that their classroom isn't safe for the other beloved students is really sad. I also want to say that often, but not always, the bullies are hurting as well, and we forget that. Sometimes we think that 8th grade, I'm just randomly saying that, studly 8th grade basketball player who goes around and bullies everyone, because they think they're the best. Or, often, children who are really insecure about themselves are the ones who are going to reach out and bully. Often the ones who do have a lot going for themselves and have a lot of power but feel very secure are not the ones who are going to go out and make sure others hurt. So that's another consideration, that bully is hurting, and therefore they need our support as well. But that doesn't mean that they can go with impunity and do absolutely nasty things. And I know, I drive by Beverly sometimes after school hours, and I see mobs of kids, and I think, wow, those poor store owners. I can only imagine what's going on in there. Part of it's developmentally appropriate, right? They've been in school all day under structured circumstances. They're let out of school. They feel, it's kind of like when you get home and you take your shoes off, and that's, sort of what they're doing, and they want to socialize, and I understand that. I just wish that there were more venues for them to socialize properly where others weren't hurt. So that they could enjoy that, because developmentally they should be, hanging out without, a curated leisure time by an adult. So those are some important considerations. The other thing is another huge piece that has made bullying very difficult, I think, for administrators to deal with is the fact that it is done through screens. So whereas 40 years ago an incident might have happened and it's a closed circuit situation where there's witnesses and a story. Well, now, of course, someone sends a message on a chat room and it goes to 30 people who send it to another 10, and then you do the math, right? And it gets to be a very pervasive, ugly situation where you have a lot of students who are reading it and therefore you could argue are complacent, right? They're laughing at it. So are they also bullies? So it's just a very complicated territory that needs to be looked at from a technological standpoint, developmental standpoint, and across different ages. And again, I'm going to say that, if your child has been identified as one who has bullied or done something, extraordinarily unkind, it's not always just about being the democracy at home and just letting your child, say that they didn't know, or that I don't know about that. They do have free will, right? They have free will to do different things, and they make some bad choices, and there should be consequences that are relevant and impactful to them. And that doesn't mean that you are a bad guy or an abusive parent by doing that. But we're not their friends. We're not their friends. We are there to stretch them, for them to grow within a safe environment. But sometimes that means saying, you know what, that was an awful, rotten thing you did. And I know you know better, and I love you, and I know you have a good heart, but you and I both know that wasn't the right choice. And we're going to talk about it when you feel like talking about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stern. Your point of view is always well-grounded from your experiences. Couple of quick things I'll comment on. My colleagues, you made strong comments tonight. I think the community is well aware of our concern in this area. Dr. Stern, you made the comment about social media and the effect that that's had on student misbehavior and bullying, because it has created this exponential effect that normally didn't exist. So what I made some notes that everything has become more widespread now, right? When things occur, things have always occurred, right? When we went to school, people bullied, people did terrible things, they did all that. There was no social media to spread it in 2 seconds. So the problem is always exacerbated. Any problem we have is exacerbated. Staff and this board spend countless hours discussing the behavior of a small handful of students when we really don't celebrate the exceptional students that all, we celebrate them for minutes at the beginning of a meeting sometimes when we do student spotlight, but we'll spend hours deliberating about people who are misbehaving. It's unfortunate we can't turn the narrative around and control that. We would rather spend all this time talking about our exceptional students in our district. And I appreciated Alan's comments because he brought to light that there is good stuff happening all over. It's the bad apples that are spoiling the bunch at this moment in time. To address Sagali's comments about anti-Semitism and exposing students to that, I know when I taught 4th grade, we read the book Number the Stars by Lois Lowry. That was about the Holocaust and exposed the students, at least in 4th grade, to that. I know they read Anne Frank in high school. Just like the Butterfly Project used poetry and to expose students, I think those opportunities would be great to have children gently get introduced to the horrors of the Holocaust. I know there used to be trips to the Museum of Tolerance. I think they still do. I'm not sure if they did it this year, but those were also opportunities. So we do spend time in this district having our students aware of that, lest we think otherwise. My question about policy, thank you, Mrs. Wells, for bringing up policy. Are we leveraging when it comes time to discuss the 5,000s, which will be soon? We have the 7,000s to finish, and then we're on to the 5,000s. We can accelerate the particular bullying policy that Mrs. Wells read at any time if we feel that necessary, but I would like to make sure it's in line with what Dr. Breggy is coming back to us with. Are we leveraging Ed Code enough to our benefit? I believe the policy right now does, but we can take a look at that and say, as I know Mrs. Manisheri brought up, as a board and staff and a school community, we are under those guises of Ed Code as far as what we can do in consequences. But there have been so many wonderful ideas brought up tonight that they will digest and staff will look into, and I look forward to what Dr. Breggy brings back. The other item on the agenda about the anti-bullying proposal, I know Dr. Breggy covered that a lot in his discussion on his comments, but I didn't want to just move on from that to make sure my colleagues had any opportunity to comment on that. But I know that he is working with his staff on the idea of the intake process and other alternatives in those situations. So I think in all fairness to him and his staff, he needs time to develop that properly and make sure we do not have a duplication of effort and that we use our resources wisely, because we do have a tremendous amount of resources in this district. Some of them are sitting in the room tonight. So we should make sure that we are using all of our resources wisely and cohesively as a district, from one school moving up toward the other schools, and there's consistency. But on that note, I will just let my comments go around one more time on this with my colleagues if there's anything else you would like to add. I think Mrs. Manisheri, I believe the direction that you were looking for is already, Dr. Breggy is already doing that based on his report. So we can safely say that that is going to happen. So I'll go back to see if there's any further things on these items, 11B or C. Alex, go ahead.
Alex is going to pass. Thank you, Alex. I just would reiterate that I really believe that the board policy and the Ed Code gives a lot of leeway. And there, when I look at the proposal on bullying, I think a lot of those suggestions are mentioned in our board policy and in many of these different policies. So I think there's a lot of leeway to adopt what the strategies are that the district feels will best meet the needs of the community and our schools going forward. I think it's really important as you do that we do get community input. I like the advisory committee a lot, and I really hope that we're listening to the experiences of many of the parents and students and what solutions that they see that could help move us along in this. I think that the other thing I would ask is that we set a timeline so that we are able to launch what these new goals and strategies are in time for the beginning of our next school year, because we only have 6 weeks left of this year, and we're going to go into planning this summer and reviewing our strategic plan and our goals. And I think whatever strategies we're trying to implement, I think it would be really important that we are able to launch any changes and that we have to these procedures for the school year, and that it's very clearly communicated to all. Thank you. Oh,
Thank
one
you,
other
Mrs.
thing, I'm
Wells.
so sorry, I just wanted to say about the anti-Semitism. And I just think that I appreciate that we have a program around Holocaust education. I would look at that as well and how we are implementing that, if there's other areas that we can add that. But I think, throughout the school year, we're going to come up with many different situations that happen. And I think, we as a district will speak out against any and all forms of hate as they occur. And that I think that's really important that we reiterate that is our stance and our policy. And we do not stand for that at all. And that whenever this comes up, knowingly or unknowingly, it is about educating our students about what the meaning is behind their actions, and really not tolerating any hate in any form.
Thank you, Mrs. Manishari.
Thank you. Mrs. Wells, to your comment about timing, I think that's a good one, so that our community can have an expectation that when we come back in the fall, there will be a game plan. We'll all be on the same page, and it will be, clearly communicated. So I would hope that as a board, we would also request that, or perhaps Dr. Breggy can confirm that kind of a timeline works, in his vision of it. In response to the comment regarding anti-Semitism, actually Mrs. Kaber had scheduled a Holocaust survivor to come and speak a few weeks back, and there was a big response from our parent community at Hawthorne, and I'm pretty sure that anyone from our school district would have been welcome to that event, like all the parent universities. Unfortunately, that gentleman got COVID, and he was unable to make it. And actually, Mrs. Kaber, since you're here, I got an email from Sinai with another Holocaust survivor who recently went and spoke there, and I can share that information with you. But I think that I would love to do a little bit more in that regard too, and maybe we can talk about it. I do want to speak to item 11C just for a brief moment. I think that I've been in this position, and so I very much want to acknowledge it. I think you can love BHUSD and want more from and for BHUSD all at the same time. And I hope that when you hear me speaking, you hear that that's what I'm about. A parent, as a canary in a coal mine, felt that some things are percolating starting from a couple of months ago, and took time as an MFT to put together this anti-bullying proposal as a platform for us to consider to start the conversation. And I just want to acknowledge you, Ellie Samadi. Thank you for doing that. When you started saying something, I had heard other things, some of the admin had heard some other things, and so on. And I think that it says a lot about you and how much you care about this district, that you would take the time to do that and to take it to Dr. Breggy and present it to him first before anyone else, and show your partnership to this district. So I just acknowledge you for that. And I have seen the proposal myself, and I think that a lot of the components were part of the offerings that Dr. Breggy covered in his report, which is exciting, which really shows that we are stronger together. So thank you so much.
I would like to echo those
Thank
words.
you, Mrs. Manishari. Mrs. Marcus?
Thank you, Mr. Margot. I would like to echo those words to Mrs. Samadi. I know that this was out of a need, that she felt that this was something that was very important, and addressing it is unbelievable. And I think there's a lot in that proposal that she has put forth that is very apt. We could use a lot of it. There's a lot of things in there that could be used, and I would hope that in putting together an advisory committee that Mrs. Samadi would be on it. So I really look forward to her continuing her work. She is really qualified. She has her marriage and family the therapy license, and I think she has been in this, and with her children, she's really very invested, and I would love to see her on the committee. Also, I would like to just say one thing in regards to the start of the school year. I would hope that we could get started on it now and really get going, because it's something that is important right now, and we can't keep putting it off. We've got to get going on it now. This time is now, and there's no reason to hesitate not to get started on it tomorrow. If we want it to be ready with all the input and the advisory and putting our heads together, it's going to take a while, and we need to start now. We don't need to wait till the summer. We need to start now, and this is my recommendation.
I don't have anything further.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcus. Dr. Stern?
I don't have anything further to add. I did see Ms. Samadi's proposal, and I think it's great, and it has a lot of elements that are really in tune with what's going on right now, and a lot of some of the actual harm that is experienced by those who are bullied, as well as you speak about having a culture school-wide that embraces anti-bullying culture. So thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues, for indulging my little change in the agenda. I thought it was apropos. We had parents that wanted to speak, so I appreciate everyone being flexible. Before I forget, because I know I'm going to, can we do item 11A, and then we'll move to planning and facilities? Because if I don't, that little guy is just going to disappear on me. So can I get a motion for 11A?
Yes, I will give you a motion to approve the resolution of 2022-2023-21, the continuing authority to hold virtual meetings pursuant to AB 361.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Ms. Krausauer, please call the roll.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a yes, and if it had been a no, I wonder if the Zoom would have shut off. So, thank you very much. That passes. Okay, now we will go back to the order of things. Item 10A.
I will make a motion to approve the new architectural services pool request for quote FAC-2022-23003 for a bond program measures E and BH, and I would like to have, if possible, an explanation of that so the audience will know what exactly that is.
Okay, can I just get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. We have Mr. Guzman here.
Yes, thank you so much. And so just item A is something that we are bringing forward to the board because we wanted to make sure we have a good pool of architects for different miscellaneous projects that we may have in the future or different things that may come up. It's important that, I think in this focus on transparency, continued transparency, I think it's really important that we have these type of transparent processes. So doing an RFQ for architects just opened it up to really any architect that wanted to work with the district to put together a good proposal. We had 14 firms that submitted qualification packages on January 27th. We selected a selection committee and made up of 2 district employees and 2 Fonder Solari team members. So we had a good group that looked at these proposals. And after this evaluation, we were able to select a pool of our top 10 rating firms based on the proposals that you can see there. And essentially, it's not that we're going to start work with all of these or anything like that. No, it's like we're trying to build a good pool of architects for us to be able to select from so that we have projects that if we have any projects that need to be designed or we need to do anything, we have this group of architects that can help us. And essentially, this pool would remain in effect for period of 5 years, and we don't have any contractual obligation to utilize any service of any of these selected firms, but again, it it's a transparent way of now having a good set of architects that we can choose from.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guzman. Colleagues, any other questions?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Ms. Krausauer, can you please call the roll?
Alex Biden,
Yes.
Mary Wells,
Yes.
Judith Vanatieri,
Yes.
Rochelle Marcus,
Yes.
Dr. Amanda Stern,
Yes.
Noah Margot.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to item B.
I'll make a motion for
Can I get a-
approval of materials testing and inspection services pool RFQ FAC-2022-23-004 for bomb program measures E and BH.
I'll second.
Is there a second?
Yeah. Mandy?
Thank you very much, Dr. Stern.
Yes.
I'm going to have Mr. Guzman address this one as well.
Much in the spirit of the first one that we saw in item 10A, essentially, we did the same thing with material testing and inspection services. These are items that are required throughout a bond project and a bond program. And so we wanted to, again, make sure that we continued this transparent process. So on December 8th, with the assistance of Foundation R, we issued the RFQ, and we received 7 qualified packages on January 27th. We again did a selection committee that was established of 2 district employees and 2 Foundation R team members. We had a criteria worksheet, and we were glad to see that we had a good pool of material testing and inspection services groups that submitted proposals. I mean, it was really good to see, actually, in both in the architectural one and the materials testing and inspection. It just tells us that, you know, there's firms out there, there's groups out there that want to work with our district, and many of them are very good. So we're really happy about that. But in this scenario, we decided to move forward with all 7 firms. And so much in the same way, we have a period of 5 years. We don't have a contractual obligation to utilize any of the services of any of the firms, but we can, do whatever we need to do. It just, again, gives us a bigger pool, and it's a more transparent process for us to continue to utilize and take advantage of these material testing and inspection services. So we're really happy about that.
Thank you. Do we expect any savings on this by using this pool?
At this point, we really haven't made, there were some different pricings. So it would depend on when we actually see a project and we begin to kind of see which firm gives us a better price, but and so that's when we would actually see a financial impact. But right now we don't have really a solid number to give, because again, this is all for future projects that we're doing.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments, colleagues?
I have a comment. I just want to thank you, Raphael, and to our team again, because I think this is keeping our program transparent, and it also creates opportunity for us to ensure that we are staying competitive and getting market price for all work that we're doing going forward. And this sets us up to be able to do that. And I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Krausauer, please call the roll.
Alex Biden,
Yes.
Mary Wells,
Yes.
Judith Vanatieri,
Yes.
Rochelle Marcus,
Yes.
Dr. Amanda Stern,
Yes.
Noah Margot. Noah Margot.
Noah?
Yes. Okay. Ms. Krausauer, you got to talk a little bit louder. Okay, motion carries. Moving on to item C.
I will make a motion to approve amendment number 5 to the agreement with RMA Group for materials testing and inspection services at Beverly Hills High School buildings B3 and B4.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Mr. Guzman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Margot. And for this item, I know Will Carrot is there in the audience. I'd like to see if you could talk us through why we needed this amendment. One thing that I'll say while Will picked up is essentially one of the good things is we have, this cost is incorporated into the current project. So, Will, is he still there? Sorry if he's not.
He's here.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll turn it over to you, Will.
Oh, good.
Anyone home?
Doesn't sound
No,
like
it's nice to see can hear you better.
Yeah, all right. Well, if you can hear me. So yeah, what we did here is now that we know a defined scope for these services, we were able to come up with a finalized number that will get us through the end of the project. Basically, what Founder Solari was able to do is go through the remaining testing. There we go. The testing and inspections that were left, and they were able to negotiate this price. And now we think this will get us through the rest of the B3, B4 project.
And just to add, right, we'll go over, like, it's already included in projections that have been presented by the Founder Solari team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did he address it? Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question about that. So just to be clear, you knew that this amount of money would be required to finish the project. I mean, you're bringing us now with the amount. It's not something that we didn't anticipate having to spend.
That's correct. That's correct. That was already budgeted for.
And so with this figure now, you can probably wrap up the total picture for El Rodeo in a final picture for us?
Well, this is B3, B4.
I meant B3, B4, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and as far as the materials testing and inspection, yes. Of course, there's always a chance that there might be an unforeseen situation, but at this point, I think we're pretty comfortable with this number.
Okay.
Thank you for negotiating it.
Colleagues, any other questions? Okay, please call the roll, Ms. Crosshour.
Alex Bodden,
Yes.
Mary Wells,
Yes.
Judith Manicherry,
Yes.
Rochelle Marcus,
Yes.
Dr. Amanda Stern,
Yes.
Noah Margot.
Yes,
Thank you.
motion carries. And just so you all know, it's about a 3-second delay. So it's trying to manage that. Thank you. Oh, okay, item D, please.
I will move for the rejection of the bids for the building number FAC 2022-23-007, the Beverly Vista Middle School Wellness Center.
I'll second.
Can I have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Wells. Any questions?
Can I just get a quick idea of how much? I would assume that the reason this, and I know it is, just for the community to know how much or how much over the original thought that this building was going to cost.
If I may, so essentially the reason for our rejection is to reevaluate scope of work and rebid. Just want to clarify that. So we're looking at the scope, we're reevaluating it, and hoping to consolidate some things. But at this point, we're rejecting all bids, and that's the reason for reevaluation of scope of work and rebid.
Could that be affected by with the DSA also?
We don't anticipate a significant delay in DSA because we're moving pretty quickly to be able to get this back out there and hopefully do another job walk, but this time with a better scope.
Okay, any other questions? Great, Ms. Crosshour, please call the roll.
Alex Bodden,
Yes.
Mary Wells,
Yes.
Judith Manicherry,
Yes.
Rochelle Marcus,
Yes.
Dr. Amanda Stern,
Yes.
Noah Margot.
Yes. Motion carries. Item E.
I will move for the approval of amendment number 4 for additional categories of tests to Twining scope of services at El Rodeo Elementary School.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcus and Mrs. Wells. Any questions or?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so just real quick, Mr. Margot. So essentially, we're bringing this because we wanted to update essentially their approved rate sheet to include categories that weren't listed previously in the contract. As time changes, there's different things that happen in the industry, and so we wanted to make sure that we have these tests and rates listed there. So if you look at the actual backup, you'll see that, and the financial impact, you'll see that the addition of the rates of categories of tests to the finance contract will not have a cost impact. So it's just more an updating. We just want to make sure that what we have in our contract is matching what we're requesting, is matching what's in the invoice, so that when it gets audited, everything is in line.
Okay, well, I have a question on it then. I was going through this and it said to test bolt-proof load test up to 7/8 inch, which of course I have not the vaguest idea what that is, but it said $70 per test. So I'm wondering, how many tests are we looking at? Because there's no indication in the of how many there will be, so there's no idea here of how much this is going to eventually wind up to cost. For example, a nut-proof load test up to 7/8 inches, $50 per test.
So I'll have Will come up and explain that a little bit further, but I just want to clarify, Ms. Marcus. So essentially, again, back on February 8th, 2022, there was an amendment number 3 that was for about $437,000, which we projected would cover all expenses throughout the completion of the project at Overdale. So we have it in the budget. It's been board approved. The only thing we're doing here is updating what that rate sheet looks like, and just kind of understanding what the different tests are, essentially. And so if Will could come up and just talk a little bit about a little more clarification on what's the,
Well, those tests then are those tests are within the amendment that we approved on February 8th?
Yes.
Okay, that makes it clear. Okay, that doesn't, it says that this is like something we were going to approve now after that the wording didn't seem to include them at that time.
Yeah, so that's why we're doing it now, because we want to make sure that, so we knew that we needed these tests, and that's part of our amendment. But again, what we're doing is adding them to the rate sheet so that when an auditor comes by and looks at our contract and then looks at the invoice, that the tests that are in the invoice are in the contract as well. And essentially that means it would be an approved rate that we're utilizing. It's just we want to be more clear in our invoicing protocols, and our Vonda Solari team as well. Along with Will, located this and said, what, we need to add some of these names and titles of these tests to the existing current rate sheet.
Thank you.
Any other questions, colleagues? Okay, Ms. Crosshauer, please call the roll.
Alex Bodden?
Yes.
Mary Wells?
Yes.
Judith Manicherry?
Yes.
Michelle Marcus?
Yes.
Dr. Amanda Stern?
Yes.
Noah Margot?
Yes. Motion carries. Item F.
I move for approval of contingency use in the Pro West contract for work on the BHHS B3, B4 portion of the work at Beverly Hills High School.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Margot. So for this one as well, Mr. Karat will be explaining regarding the contingency use, just the difference of what that means. So.
All right. So for this board item, what we're doing here is we're approving the use of contingency funds, which per the Pro West contract requires board approval. In this specific item, we had some work that was done as a result of district requested items. And in this case, it was wireless access points. We added quite a few wireless access points to this project for better Wi-Fi connectivity. There were also 2 other smaller charges that had to do with the Veneco site and cleanup, but the main chunk of this contingency use was for those wireless access points, and the scope of work is running the data and the conduit to each location that we added.
Any questions, colleagues? Thank you, Mr. Karat.
You're welcome.
Ms. Krausauer?
Alex Bodden,
Yes.
Mary Wells,
Yes.
Judith Manicherry,
Yes.
Rochelle Marcus,
Yes.
Dr. Amanda Stern,
Yes.
Noah Margot.
Yes, motion carries. Item G.
I will move for the approval of the Vantage Technology Consulting Group as new technology services consultant for the bond program measures E and BH based on a RFQP FAC 2022-23-005.
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Marcus and Dr. Stern. Go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you, Mr. Margot. So for this one, again, in an attempt to make sure that all of our contracts are procured the right way and, in an effort of transparency as well, we went for an RFP for technology services consulting. In the bond program, the technology impact is really important because it really is not just about putting a wireless access point in the building. Like, you have to make sure that it matches what the needs are for the educational component of all our educational programs. So it's really important to have a consultant that understands, what the technology is and what's needed in the classroom. The technology you might have at home is not the same as what you'll need in a classroom. There's outside components. There's a lot of different things here. But the reason why we went out and we went for a RFP for a consultant. We received one, and the consultant that requested was essentially Vantage Group. And so because we received the one, we went ahead and are recommending to the board to approve for us to work with them. And it's something that we really need to make sure that the technology component of our facilities and our bond projects are what we need in the classroom.
Thank you, Mr. Guzman. I wanted to ask you if there's going to be does there have to be an onboarding process because this is a new company, correct?
Yes. So we have some specific projects that we need some technical advice in, and so we would essentially have a little bit of an onboarding for them to understand what that project is. But it would be more project specific. Most of our projects we already have kind of those areas lined out, but there are some scenarios where we need some support to just make sure that we're putting the things in the right places, that we build the right redundancies, in the different programs or different areas. So that's what that will help us on.
Terrific. Thank you. Colleagues, any questions?
No, just say again, thank you very much for going out for this RFQ so that we have competitive pricing. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Hearing nothing else, Ms. Krausauer, please call the roll.
Alex Bodden,
Yes.
Mary Wells,
Yes.
Judith Manicherry,
Yes.
Rochelle Marcus,
Yes.
Dr. Amanda Stern,
Yes.
Noah Margot.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, colleagues. Lot to handle from here. Okay, moving down to communications from board members. I'm going to let you guys manage yourself on this, starting with Alex. Once I hear Dr. Stern complete, I will take over.
I have no further comments.
In terms of reporting meetings in the last month, we had a March 29th CBOC Brown Act meeting where the new members of the CBOC and our existing current members had a refresher course on the Brown Act. On March the 30th, the Finance Committee met and are reviewing our audit report and some options for recommendations for the district moving forward. The CBOC met again on April the 20th, and Moss Adams and Christy White gave their presentations on the audit report for this year. And I attended on 4/20 next Beverly Hills Committee's meeting and heard from them ideas that they'd really like to partner with the school district. So we talked about some things about that going forward, and I think it'll be exciting for us. Two things that are coming up is They're starting to plan their next night out, which will be in, I believe, September. And I think we had such a great showing for our school district for that event. And they're talking about some other events that can be district-wide for our school. That's all I have to report. I did just also want to thank again all of the staff and administration for being here and listening to the feedback that we're receiving about the school environment, and really look forward to seeing what solutions that we come up with in terms of moving forward. So thank you very much for participating tonight. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I also attended the CBOC and Finance Committee meetings with Mrs. Wells, but she did a great job summarizing those. I wanted to speak to the parent universities. Actually, Dr. Scott and Mrs. Caber, you're here, and Mr. Bugby too. I really commend you on the presentation of the parent universities the last couple weeks. I've been attending them as a parent, and it's something that, I mean, I've been a parent for 13 years now, and I don't think I can learn enough and, evolve enough. And so the information has been invaluable, especially as what's happening with the children really does evolve. Maybe with my third one, I can finally get things right, or continue to improve at least. I just am very grateful to them, and I know that a lot of parents feel the same way. I thought that, for example, with Dr. Tevyev, I was blown away by her presentation, and then the 1-2 punch of that with the social media responsibility that came after it. And also the ones, Dr. Scott, that you've had and Mr. Bugby, they've just been amazing. And the parents talk about them, they share notes about them, they, give tidbits about them. And so I'm very grateful for that. I wanted to share that I'm a Chamber of Commerce in Beverly Hills member, and I attended the Women's Business Network event last week, which was absolutely phenomenal. And now Council Member Lily Bossi was honored. Also Council Member Shona Nazarian was honored, and the two speakers were Tracy Tudor from $1 Million Listing, as well as Jade Mills, who is a superstar in Beverly Hills. It was a really great experience, especially because I'm in real estate and they're in real estate. And as they told their stories, which was what was the most amazing, is that Jade Mills, who is such a rock star, she actually got her start in our El Rodeo school as a mom of 3 children who had just lost her husband. And that's really when she started growing. I just thought it was amazing to be in that environment. And so many folks from the chamber have reached out to me and are trying to create more opportunities for our kids through internships. So we might be hearing a little bit more about that kind of stuff. That's about, actually, excuse me, I do have 1 or 2 more things to say. The BHBL and the AYSO as part of our community wraparound services have been amazing. We just started our BHBL spring program, which is just a 5 or 6 week that comes after the winter program. To be on our campus on the weekend as part of those city programs has been such a pleasure. To see families that I grew up with, their kids don't even go in, to our schools. But to have that community and that camaraderie is really amazing. So just a big sense of gratitude for all the programming that we have city and district wide. Thank you everyone for what you do for us.
Thank you. I also had one meeting that I attended during the month. I was not able to go to the LACSA meeting because of the show at, so I was hoping you might mention it, because I can say nothing because I wasn't there. So I will make a point of the fact that the next one is going to be right here at our school, and I'm looking forward to hosting it, and I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about that. So I did attend the Health and Safety Commission just yesterday. and I'd just like to make a brief report on what they had to do and tell you some of the things that were going on. The police and fire department had their usual reports about incidents and whether there's some increases or whether there are decreases in some of the reports and so on. They did say that May 13th, which is coming up soon, there'll be an open house at the fire station on Rexford from 2 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and they're looking for a lot of people to show up for that. And on May 7th is the annual police department pancake breakfast at the Sunday market. So I wanted to let everybody know that. Also, the commissioner from the Human Relations, Norelle Freeman, was there yesterday and invited the Health and Safety Commission to support them. They're going to have a wellness day that is being planned for September 10th in Beverly Hills at the open air market. And I thought that might be a good thing, that maybe the Beverly Hills School District might also get their have something there as far as a wellness day at that particular event. So we may be able to, if they are always talking about coupling together, that might be an opportunity to invite, especially with the night out program also. And they had a quarterly report on the transportation program. They talked about the mobility study of something that's happening at Ladue and Clifton. They talk about pedestrian crossings. The May is Bike Month, and on May 21st, there'll be a free valet service. If you like to have your bicycle service, they are oiling it and checking tires and so on May 21st. I think it's probably going to be at the open on the Sunday market. I'm not quite sure, but I think that's what they said. There was an update on the nurse practitioner program, which is, of course, very valuable to the city of Beverly Hills. We are the only city, I think, in the state that has an extensive practitioner program, although there are some other cities that have a program not at all like the one that we have. And then Vice Chair Erica Felsenthal did her monthly moment of mindfulness activity, where she talks about emotional health and social well-being, and then does some breathing exercises and gets everybody in touch to relax and let it release the stress of the day. There's a presentation on melanoma and skin cancer that's coming in May, because melanoma and skin cancer awareness month is in May. Now on to the pleasant things that I'd really like to talk about, because today I felt like, well, I wish I could talk about the good things that are happening, and I really do think there are some great things. Well, so much of them has already been mentioned, but I get a chance, I guess, to say it. I'll go over quickly. I attended the art show in the Municipal Gallery that the Beverly Vista Middle School students did. I was blown away by that. And then I went to the high school art museum. It was like a museum. I couldn't believe the variety of works and the medias that these students did. And one of the things that blew me away were these paper sculptures. It was unreal. I couldn't believe it. I saw Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which was very entertaining. There was one scene in that was hysterical, and it was all like if it had been planned. It couldn't have been better. So they are to be congratulated. And I also attended the Beverly Hills High School Band and Orchestra concert and was blown away by that also. That was unbelievable. I couldn't believe the quality and it was just, what Mr. Kotzel has done so far has just been unbelievable. I want to congratulate the boys volleyball team that went to their volleyball game yesterday. They beat another school three. They only had to play 3 games out of 3 out of 5. They won all 3 very convincingly, and I understand they're away tonight playing another round because they're playing to be into the championship. So I look forward to hearing about that. And then coming up tomorrow I will be at the Beverly Vista Dance Show. That's at 6:30. Anybody wants to join me, I'd love to have company. And then on May 10th or 11th, at 6:30, I'm going to go visit Frozen, which is another Beverly Vista show coming up. And again, they're going to do it again on Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. So it's for kids after school can go and see it and not have too late a night. So 3 performances of Frozen coming up. If it's anything like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it will be fantastic. Mr. Pinto does a great job. The elementary art classes have in the municipal gallery coming up. I have to check on the dates. Do you happen to know when those are? I don't remember. I just saw it coming, and I got to. May 1st. Thank you. That's at the municipal gallery in the afternoon. And we'll be there for that. Thursday. Oh, I get to practice what little French I know.
Cabaret.
Which is that much. The cabaret, and of course I look forward to not only the French, but I look forward to the French delicacies that the culinary arts will prepare for us. And I was going to say something about the parent, I have that on here, but you did a beautiful job of talking about
The Parent University.
Yes, I love those. And I was so impressed by the number of parents that turned out for it, both on Zoom and in person. So I will just say that I want to keep this very upbeat, and I'm going to close and tell you all to have a very pleasant week, and I see you all at the next meeting, if not sooner, at some of the events.
Rochelle, you need a social secretary.
Mm-hmm.
We need someone, anyone out there want to volunteer and schedule it? That's great.
Well, I have more time than most of you now.
Well, you have a lot of vivacity, and it's great. Let's see. We have some greatness absolutely on our campus, and I wanted to mention something that was brought to our attention from Dr. Breggy, and that is Justin Klotzel. He applied. He sent in an application to NAM, which is the National Association of Music Merchants, and they reviewed our application, and they actually recognized Beverly Hills Unified as one of the best communities for music education in the country. And this association puts on one of the largest music industry trade shows in the world. And so I'd just like to recognize Justin Klotzel and the music program. They're doing a great job. I'd also like to thank KBEB, as always, for all the hard work they do, and the audio production class, Alex Brightman. I don't know if you guys heard the waiting music to get into the online board meeting, but my son and two of his classmates made the track. So it's now the elevator music. I was trying to explain to him what elevator music was, that in the old days there used to be music when you're in the elevator. So now it's boardroom waiting music. So thank you, Alex Brightman, Michael LeBeau for the audio production studio, and KBEV as well. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. I'll just end tonight. I wanted to once again thank Ellen Kwan for inviting me into her classroom. And I'm having such a wonderful time learning so much from our faculty. Couple of quick notes. The delegates today went to the Capitol to advocate on behalf of education in California, but they're really national issues. So even though Dr. Breggy and Ms. Starkins and Mr. Guzman and myself were tasked to go meet with certain representatives, we took it upon ourselves to actually explore the halls of the Rayburn Congressional Building and take our message to just a variety of representative offices. Raphael and I met Thomas Massey, who's a representative from Kentucky, who was coming in, looks like from a trip into his office to get down to the House floor. And he introduced himself, and all of these people were very willing to accept our leave behind material. We'll follow up with emails and stressing the importance. The big takeaway from this convention and being with the delegates from all over California is the importance of federal funding for special ed. That seems to be the message that we're trying to convey here. There's the IDEA Act in 45 years ago promised 40% federal funding, and as Raphael had pointed out, we're about 7%, right, in our district? 5%, sorry, it's even lower, is what we get federal. So that's a lot of encroachment on districts all over the country, and we're trying to change that in any way possible. So good work that was done here by all of our own community representatives for our district, but as well as the other school districts in California that made the effort to come out here and try to work on behalf of advocating in Congress. So I do appreciate all of that. We got to hear Javier Becerra, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, speak as well this morning. So this has been a very valuable trip and a good experience representing our community, our district in Washington. So with that, I thank everyone. Have a pleasant tonight.
Before you end, Noah, can I add?
I'm sorry.
Before you end, can I just add one last comment?
Sure.
I just want to thank you and Rebecca and Dr. Bragi and Raphael for taking that trip to all the way across the country and representing our district. I greatly appreciate it. I'm sorry I missed it myself. So thank you for taking the time and doing that and advocating for our district and for public schools everywhere. I really appreciate it. And I just also wanted to thank Ellie Samadi again for your dedication and passion for the well-being of our students. So thank you very much. Thanks, Noah.
I also want to add Rodney Mitchell. Rodney Mitchell also helped on the audio production and is a big member of the. I remember I met the gentleman only recently, but I know he has an integral part. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Stern. Thank you, everybody. I also the BV staff that came tonight. I can't see you all because it's not my angle, but I heard you all there. And Mrs. Wells said thank you, but I wanted to add my gratitude as well for you being here tonight to support this issue. Thank you, everyone. We will see you in a couple of weeks. Have a wonderful evening and a better tomorrow. Meeting is adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Gavel.
Good night.
Wait, I get to do the gavel.
Put that down, Manny.
Part of our interview. It was great to have you. Thank you guys for watching.